Here. Mr. Williams.
Here. Comments from residents on agenda items. We have a list of people calling in advance to speak.
That is the list you have there.
Mr. Ken Houston. Come on down. Mr. Houston, please state your name and address for the record.
I sure will. My name
Thank you,
is
sir.
Kenneth Houston. I reside at 108 Edgemead Drive. That's in Monroeville, Pennsylvania, 15146. Don't you all throw no eggs at my house. That's okay. You don't have to laugh. Thank you very much for the opportunity to address this board. Superintendent Short, I stand here today as the president of the NAACP Allegheny East, which Monroeville is one of our jurisdictions. I'm coming before you to speak about the achievement gap. The Allegheny East NAACP branch realizes the effort and work that you all have put into addressing the achievement gap. I look forward to the implementation of change for the betterment of our students and the community at large. I want to particularly take the opportunity to commend Ms. Byrne, Mr. O'Donnell, I forgot your name, Ms. Cerrucci, those of you that were particularly involved in the Achievement Gap Committee. I particularly want to commend Mr. Steve O'Donnell for keeping his promise concerning this particular issue. I believe that the district is headed in a great direction. I would just like for you to please understand the relevance of an equity officer versus social worker. First of all, a social worker typically has one-on-one classroom or school-wide sessions addressing issues relevant to school attendance, illegal drugs, alcohol, dangers, and teen pregnancy. They also might assist teachers and administrators in dealing with behavior or attitude issues by communicating with students to find the causes of their distresses. It is imperative to understand that an equity officer and a social worker have different responsibilities. The responsibilities of an equity officer is responsible for the oversight of the district's accountability to provide cultural responsive education. Equity is about responsibility for diversity and professionalism, competency and inclusion. An equity position is an operational administrative position in central administration that provides leadership for promoting diversity, professionalism, competency, and inclusion throughout the district. The position must be conceptualized for all students in the district, with a specific focus on ensuring that historically oppressed groups in the United States, and for example, African American students, Native Americans, Latinos, Hispanics, sexual orientation, gender identity students with special needs, have equal access and equitable opportunities to receive culture responsive, appropriate and relevant education. This commitment requires that all educational leaders, school boards, superintendent, principals, administrators, teachers, parents, and community stakeholders value the positive benefits of recognizing diversity and inclusion. I'm going to stop right there because I provided to each of you this particular statement. It's pretty lengthy, 3 pages long. I also, through the NAACP, we provided what's called a chief equity officer and some of the job description and responsibilities for you all to take a look at, to give you a framework of what an equity officer is. Let me say this. I think that oftentimes when we talk about achievement gap, people get a little bent out of shape about that word. Particularly, it seems like it's an indictment on the administration and or teachers at large and school board directors. That's not necessarily the case. I think what Gateway should be godly proud of is the fact that you have taken up this particular issue. My concern is that when you talk about equity and you talk about achievement gap, the only way that we're going to impact and affect change with dealing with this issue is that you have to involve community. You cannot exclude community when you're working with these issues. And I think that in the community, we bear responsibility in working with you in trying to deal with these particular issues. The fact of the matter is I looked on the board agenda, and I saw the estimate costs and the equity coordinator, diversity consultant, CPR consultant, instructional coaching and tutoring. And then I seen on the page prior to, you all specifically talk about create a gateway equity team. And I think that's commendable from the NAACP side. I think it's commendable to have a team. My only issue with this is that the equity team will consist of following a diversity consultant, a cultural responsive pedagogy consultant, which actually is the same role, to be honest with you, a secondary principal, an elementary principal, an assistant superintendent, secondary teacher, an elementary teacher, and one parent. My question to you all in relevance to this is why not get the biggest bang for your buck and hire someone who has the background, the proven statistical outcomes to handle this specific issue to support the district? You're going to pull teachers, principals out of their classrooms into this team. Why? Not that the teachers and principals and administrative leaders don't play a role in this. They certainly do. But I think that if for the district to get the biggest bang for its buck, why not hire an equity chief to work hand in hand with the community and the district so that we can work to solve these specific issues around the achievement gap? I think that putting, again, this kind of framework in place is just kicking the can down the road. I don't think that it will solve the issues that we need to solve by someone who is lettered in dealing with this specific issue. There's nothing wrong with stepping outside the box and bringing someone in who is qualified to deal with this specific issue, to help the community and the district understand what we're dealing with. And this is by no means an indictment on the teachers or the administrative staff of Gateway. Gateway School District is a Class A school district, in my humble opinion, with my little 9-year-old son that goes to Evergreen. But the realities of it is we have an issue, and we have to address the issue. And we cannot try to put different ones to play it safe to address what we're trying to address. I think our district can be a national model in dealing with this specific issue. And I think that as the NAACP, we're also challenged to work with you to find ways to make this a better situation for all of us. There's this notion that somehow the NAACP is an organization that's confrontational and divisional. We want divisiveness, and that's not true. What we want to do is work with you, help you, support you, do what we can to make our school district stand up and be grade A. I don't think that this, and then what really caught my attention is the final recommendation. Why does it have to be the final recommendation? I don't understand. I don't understand how you went from an achievement gap committee, doing all that you were doing, coming to the table, proposing to pay a social worker $100,000, and then we jump from that, and then we go to the equity team, and now the equity consultant is only going to get $15,000. Equity should be an administrative post. The equity officer, or whoever he or she may be, should work hand in hand with you in doing whatever they can to bridge the gap with community and district. So I humbly appeal to you to take a look at the information that was provided by the NAACP. I think that there are a number of organizations that are doing stellar work, RAMP and NAACP and the Ministerial Alliance. I saw Rabbi Barbara. I think all of us, we're for you. we're for you. But I think you need to take this very, very serious, folks. Very, very serious. Creating an administrative post that's dealing with equity, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's a win-win for everybody. I do. I think Mr. Short is he's trying to knock it out the park. You know, he's got 20 more years to retire.
Not that long.
But seriously, I'm very serious when I say this. I think that we can work hand in hand to impact and affect change and make a difference. And I think we can work together to do this. I humbly appeal to you to consider hiring a equity chief, equity officer, whatever you want to call it. But I think it would be a win-win for the district and the community. I thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Mr. Rucci.
So Rick McIntyre. Hi, Richard.
I think most of you are familiar with me by now. I'm Rick McIntyre. I live on Tilbrook Road in Monroeville.
Thank you.
Again, I want to thank Mr. Houston for his words. He actually stole most of what I actually kind of wanted to say. I'm not usually one to come up and actually read something prepared, but I feel like this is an important enough meeting that I have something prepared. So forgive me if it sounds red, but please at least maybe close the laptop, maybe actually just listen to the words. You know, in my opinion, this board has the opportunity tonight to prove wrong all the people in the community that say this board can't put the needs of the district and of the community before their own political and personal ideology. Tonight, you folks have a chance to make a full commitment to really addressing the achievement gap. And as most of you know, in the last few months, I've had a chance and an obligation, in my opinion, to go out and reach as many people in the community as I have, or as many as I could. And I didn't hit as many doors as maybe I wanted to, but I did reach out and heard a lot of voices over the last couple months. And the overwhelming response was in favor of doing whatever it takes to close this achievement gap and to keep it from being a blemish moving forward. And all I can say is I stand before you right now to remind you of the commitment that every one of you made when you asked to be elected. When there's a problem in the district, and the achievement gap certainly qualifies as one, no matter how, there's different stats, and however you want to look at it, there's an issue there. Depending on how you look at it, it's a little issue, and we're doing better than the districts around us. But if we want to use Woodland Hills and Penn Hills as our benchmark, I have a problem with that, personally. And I think a lot of people here would agree. So, I'm sorry. Again, when there's a problem, it's your duty, it's your absolute duty to respond accordingly and with conviction. And in my opinion, the proposal before you tonight from the board, it hasn't come about lightly or with anything that can be considered haste. This isn't a rushed decision. This has been a 10-year commitment from a group of people who truly wish to see Gateway elevate itself back to the blue ribbon status we used to be so proud of. And again, you know, I'm citing numbers, but roughly a 42% minority population, meaning non-white, in this district. Why are we willing to disenfranchise almost half of our students by saying, well, we don't have the money for it? Or by saying it's better solved with a social worker? Or it's better solved by diluting the purpose of an equity director down into the several positions that are in front of us tonight? How much are we telling them that they aren't worth? And I'm going to repeat that. That's to me, it's a powerful statement. How much are we telling these kids that they aren't worth? I sat in the budget meeting last week, and I saw proposals for $30,000 to resurface the gym floor, $50,000 to replace windows in the press box, all of which are important. They serve a purpose. But if that can get proposed without, without even thought, how can anybody on this board sit here and tell me we don't have the money to invest in the entire community and to push what this committee has been pushing for, what the committee that Mr. O'Donnell and everybody got together with, which was a commendable effort, and what that committee came up with until now hasn't actually been presented, and now it finally is. So, I apologize. If we aren't doing our best to promote intersectionality in education by embracing the diversity of our students and supporting their teachers in their mission to foster an inclusive and learning environment, how can we seriously sit here with good conscience and say that we're all doing our best? And I think Ms. King, Dr. King is going to get up here in a couple minutes and give a decent example of what, the training gives. And if any of you honestly listen to what she has to say and can sit there and say that this is a bad idea, I don't really agree with adding this tool to every teacher's arsenal to reach our kids and to really motivate our kids and activate them into getting, is that my thing?
That is your
Okay, well. Again, I thank you for your time. I thank you for all your efforts, and hopefully you have a choice between a commitment or not so much of a commitment, in my opinion. So I really believe that you're all going to make the right choice tonight, and thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Mr. Bob Elms.
Bob Elms, 1303 Foxborough Drive.
Thank you, Bob.
I talked about the Kennewick School District before in the last talk. Kennewick is a school district that's not unlike Gateway in a lot of ways. They made a number of observations in their chapter 25 of their book, and I just want to pick out a few very personal and very important points. In elementary school, the achievement gap is a result of a lack of opportunities rather than a lack of ability. About 20% of the children entering kindergarten have the math and reading skills of 3-year-olds. No one has ever read to them or tried to teach them to count. On the other hand, a few students enter kindergarten with the skills of an 8-year-old. They've had 2 years of kindergarten, 2 years of nursery school, and someone has read to them and teach them counting since birth. The achievement gap is measurable on entry into kindergarten. Think about that first fact. 20% of the students in kindergarten are 2 years behind in measurable skill levels when they enter kindergarten. If these students are not reading at grade level by the 3rd grade, it's very difficult and very expensive to get these students up to grade level in the following years. When I was a school board member, I talked to a few Gateway elementary school teachers, and they said, grades K to 3, students learn to read. Grades 4 through 12, students read to learn. If you don't have that reading skill in 3rd grade, you have problems for the rest of your school life. If a school district fails to make the investment in these kids before the 3rd grade, the school district sentences many of these kids to years of struggling and never having the opportunity to grow to the best of their ability. Now for a few technical words. Rigor, engagement, lesson purpose, and the results are the hallmarks of excellent instruction. For the student caught in the achievement gap, an engagement tool is culturally responsive teaching. Do you believe this student has a potential to learn is one of the questions you should ask. Do you use teaching materials to which these students can relate? Students caught in the achievement gap need to be kept engaged in the classroom. Otherwise, they'll likely have attendance and behavior problems. Equal opportunity to equity to quality education should be the goal of every school district. Teaching needs to be done with fidelity to the students and standards. Teaching tools and training needs to be supported by the administration with fidelity. And who better to monitor and measure this process than an equity director? Someone who has some authority to do something. Now, the achievement gap is not a term. It's not purely just a term. It's something that affects lives. And the next part is my personal experience in this. Several years ago, I tutored a third grade student caught in the achievement gap. This was a good boy, but very disruptive in class. His desk was sitting right next to the teacher's desk. His reading skills were so weak that he failed tests because he couldn't read the questions. I realized quickly that the best thing I could do to him was just to read to him. I chose books that he was interested in. We would occasionally pause and discuss the information in the books while I was reading. This was an intelligent student who had missed a lot of opportunities to develop skills. We developed a mutual trust and respect for each other. He knew that I believed he could do better and be better. Shortly, he was identified as a student who needed an IEP. IEP is Individual Education Plan. This process can take well over 12 weeks from identifying the student's needs to putting the plan together to meet those needs. I just continued reading to him and occasionally asking him to read a sentence. By the end of the school year, there were major changes. When we would get together, he would tell me about the times he avoided getting in trouble at school. The teacher had put him back in the classroom with the regular kids. He was seated with the rest of the class. One time at the end of the school year, I asked him to read, and he did not struggle with every word. In fact, he himself noticed how well he was reading at that point. It wasn't my doing, it was the IEP. The only thing I did was I gave him a reason to work. And he said, I can read so much better. The achievement gap is not a term, it's a struggle for the students who are truly left behind. These students need to know that someone cares about them, that somebody believes they can do better, and that the school is willing to give them the extra learning opportunities they need to catch up to their classmates' skills. In reading, this needs to happen by the third grade.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Lorraine Lewis Burke.
Mr. Williams, may I speak later?
After everybody spoke or
Yes.
after the meeting or?
After everyone speaks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Scott Gallagher.
Good evening. Reverend Dr. Scott Gallagher, the 700 Greenleaf in Monroeville. I appreciate the opportunity again to speak to you to address the topic of the achievement gap, and I especially appreciate Mr. Short for responding to my email. I know that was a lengthy letter that I had sent, and I sometimes have a problem with just dumping a lot of statistics and facts in a very short period of time, so I apologize for the density of that letter. I'm actually here encouraged by the proposal that's before you tonight. I'm encouraged because the social worker piece is no longer part of that. In the letter, I addressed the fact that even the National Association of Social Workers say that social workers cannot resolve the achievement gap issues. Studies in social work schools and colleges that have been done time and time again that say social workers cannot do this. This is a matter of education, and in the field of education requiring specialized skills to meet that. So that's just the summary of that lengthy letter that I sent. Once again, I had an opportunity to meet with some of the leaders in education, and I was able to take your presentation, Mr. Short, from January of this year and share that. They were encouraged at the fact that that information was even shared, the PSSA results, in the way that it was shared, and that it's been, released, that it was able to be seen by the public. A lot of school districts are not providing that information so readily to the community to be shared. One thing that came up as we were in the midst of that discussion concerning the apprehension that there may be and the tendency to want to solve this problem still, even though it's not in proposal, through social work. With the idea that the achievement gap is based upon mainly the problems at home, the poverty, the truancy, disciplinary problems, things like that. As you look through those statistics that were provided on there, it's strange that when we look at the PSSA scores for Gateway, the economically disadvantaged students of the school that are at basic or below basic are 47% in English language, 66% in mathematics, and 30% in science. Now, when you contrast that to white students, who are, there are many that are in that same category above, the 31%, the basic and below, 52% basic and below in mathematics, and 20% basic and below in science. When you juxtapose that with the other information, the non-white students, that rate is 54.2%, 64%, and 48%. So whenever we're looking at that, we're speaking of between 48 to close to, whenever we look at African-American students in particular, 75% on mathematics, we're talking about hundreds of students that are falling into this gap. It's not just the percentage that we're given. This is hundreds of students that when you compare that to white students, the differential that exists is something that we have to focus upon, which is going to require the efforts that are in this proposal to have somebody there to hold everyone accountable along the way. You've already taken great steps as a school board to even address this issue. And I applaud you, and I applaud you along with others that have spoken tonight for even addressing this. But I just want to reaffirm that this is not a household problem. I shared at the last meeting that I came from a poverty-stricken home. I was a disciplinary problem, but I had the advantage of being white, and I was given all kinds of opportunities to the point of receiving a doctorate. That opportunity is not given to my African-American brothers and sisters in the same way. It's not afforded. I could open up a school textbook and I could relate to the people that were in the pages of that textbook, which isn't the case for African-American students and non-white students. The teachers that I had in school, I had all through my career in school, I had one African-American teacher, from kindergarten through 12th grade, and that was a part-time student teacher that was filling in for course at that time. So there are a lot of things that they're taking into account that can help us take that next step as a school district and make a difference in not just statistics, not just percentages, but in real lives of the children who are going to be the leaders of our community in the future. These students that we're helping now may be our school board members of the future. They will be our teachers in the future. So again, I thank you for looking at that and commend you for your efforts.
Thank you. April King?
Got my own stopwatch. I try to respect our time. April King, 4437 Homar Drive. I'm a resident. My daughter just graduated last year from this district. I attended this district as a child. My niece will attend this district. My siblings have attended this district. I live, work, play in this community. So, having said that, I didn't think that being a teacher, as long as I have here, and a lot of people knew me, that I would need to share some things with you, but I do want to just share it because I think it matters. Through my doctorate program, I spent over 400 hours, not only in my research with the achievement gap over time, but working towards finding a solution. I offer this as evidence, A. Please feel free
Dennis,
to pass it down.
could you read that in
Do
the
we
next
have to
5
read
minutes?
it before we vote on this? No, but you're welcome to just peruse it, okay? In documenting RAMP's, Raising Achievement and Memorable Pick Karen's work on the achievement gap, my sister once told me, please put together, she called it a brag file, but in essence, is a scrapbook that documents all the work that we have put towards the subject. Offering this just to say, if you were to convene another committee and spend an hour on it, I'm not sure that you're going to get the wealth of information that I have to share there, but you're welcome to look. I also thought, we've spent all this time talking about culturally responsive teaching because it is the research-based solution to closing the achievement gap, data-driven, it's evidence. But then I realized, how many of you have actually sat through an explanation or sat through a culturally responsive lesson? I mean, honestly, raise your hand if you understand what culturally responsive teaching looks like. Okay?
From our committee, we had quite an extensive presentation on some examples.
So what I thought is it would be really hard for you to make an informed decision as a school board if you don't even know what it is or what it looks like. So I'd like to explain a few examples of culturally responsive teaching, and I'm going to pass this down on my phone. And in your reflection, I would love for you to check off the items that you see here on this chart that you thought were reflected in my lesson, and you'll see the components of it that are culturally responsive, okay? So I taught this lesson with my second graders, for those of you that don't know what grade I teach. It was on bar graphs, charts, graphs, interpreting them, drawing conclusions. And I opened the textbook, it's Pearson and Vision, and there's an online version that you can post up and the kids can see the animated visuals and so on. And there's all the pictures in there are animations, so they're not like photos or anything, but there's a picture of a white student, no big deal. I have white students in my class, this is proportional representation for this particular lesson. But I also realized that as I looked through the lesson and there was a graph on animal farms, different cat, chickens and dogs and whatever, different farm animals. I didn't even look at it because cows moo. I realized that my kids don't see a farm every day. They don't see farm animals every day. And if I was going to engage them, I needed to find something they were interested in, and you should have heard them scream as I tried to engage them with something. So I want to explain to you what I did, and when I'm done, I'm going to pass around what my lesson plan was as it was observed through my observation, and it's on PAETEP. I think some of you have access to that. So if you don't know my class has, really? Can I have more than 5 minutes? Okay. My class has 3 Asian students, 1 Hispanic student. 2 Asian students, 1 Hispanic student. It's about a balance between African American and white students at the end. So I decided, instead of just simply showing them charts and graphs and saying, hey, let's look at farm animals, that I would show them something they were more interested in. I said, I know a lot about you guys. I know that you like sports. I know the different movies. I know the things that you like to play with. May I please have 2 more minutes? Okay. And I said, but I don't know a lot about your musical interests. So I tried to cross, take the lesson across content areas. It was math. But I said, remember the word genre that we learned when we were in language arts and reading, and talking about different reading styles. I said, there's different music styles too. What kind of genre do you think you know? And one hand went up and they're like, hip hop. And another one says R&B. And I said, yeah, and I'm interested in knowing more about you. I want to know what kind of music styles you like. I said, but I'm not sure if you are aware what music sounds like which music style. So I prepared for them a little presentation which showed pictures and videos of some of the different music style clips. And they literally got to see New Age, Yanni, for those of you that don't know Yanni, excuse me, he's one of my favorites. But New Age, Secret Garden. I also showed them Latin, so they got to see Enrico Iglesias and Christina Aguilera, and they were able to see some different R&B artists and classical artists. There was Yo-Yo Ma. I have Asian students in my class. The one little boy at the end, I'll tell you what he said. But anyhow, they were really, really excited about the lesson. As soon as I put that on the board, they all went, oh my goodness, They were able to relate to those, and not just because they were musical styles, but they were musical styles that related to every student in my class. So after getting them engaged, I said, don't you want to know what your peers like? Don't you want to know the styles of music that they like? And they're, yeah. I said, okay. So I gave them a sheet of paper with all their students' names on it. I said, your job is to go interview each student. I want you to check off what their favorite music style is. And then on the back, we're going to graph it with a bar graph. I said, but the learning here is in drawing conclusions and understanding the data that you've received. So the long story short of it is they went around, they interviewed all their friends, we had a little time limit, which is better than me, and they came together and we looked at their data. And they were so engaged for the whole lesson, and my one student, he says, I want to do classical music. And he saw Yo-Yo Ma. And, you know, he was very excited when he saw that person, and he was very engaged, and he's not even usually in my math class. He's usually out of the math class. My point to share that lesson with you is to show you how I simply relied on my textbook, and simply relied on farm animals, and simply relied on it to give me any representation of the population of students that I have in my classroom. I would have missed multiple opportunities to engage my children in that lesson. So I wanted to share that with you. There are some other people here who are going to share some examples with you, but I'm going to pass around what the lesson is for your perusal when you get a chance. But really, I'd like you to take a look at this chart. I've sent it before, but I sat here and I actually checked off for myself. Here are the different things that made this a culturally responsive lesson. Two of my, would you mind taking one and passing it around? Two of my colleagues told me that I was permitted to share their names with you. One is Shelley Zavatsky, 3rd grade, and the other one's Nancy Bendorf, 3rd grade, Dana Wintrobel, 2nd grade. That the training that I did with them helped them to see how to have culture responsive activities in their classroom. One had to do with vocabulary. For those of you that don't know, it is an awesome way for kids who are very into hip hop kind of music to learn math and the different concepts ranging from 2nd grade all the way up to 8th grade or beyond. She says, April, that lesson that you shared with me, I still use it to this day when she can go online and find examples. You also have to have a membership to get the full system. But anyway, her and both Mrs. Zavatsky, same thing. They said to me, the biggest thing that they got out of it is an awareness. If I wasn't aware of my population, and if I wasn't aware that the text I had and the activities that were planned would not be suitable for my population, I would have missed an opportunity to engage them. And so that's what they said. For them, it's just the idea that they're a little bit more aware of the decisions that they make and that they need to be more inclusive for their kids. So just wanted to give you, and I realize this is an elementary version, but just an idea of what culture responsive teaching looks like and the training that teachers would use to be able to make informed decisions about reaching their students.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amy Bear?
Here, Amy, you need to unlock this. Yes.
Okay, I have, Amy Bear, Monroeville resident, Gateway Middle School teacher, 7th grade science. Okay. I have two different things to share with you tonight. One is a letter from Brittany Vasco, who is an elementary school teacher here, and she gave the letter so it could be shared since she couldn't be here tonight. And then one is an experience that I've had with my students, just another kind of experience with these things. So one of the things that I really wanted to say, along with what April said, is just an awareness that just awareness is the biggest deal. Just being aware that this stuff makes a difference. Okay, that culturally responsive teaching makes a difference. So one of the things I was really excited about as a science teacher, but just also as somebody who teaches in a very diverse district, is the movie Hidden Figures came out. And it was out, and it's a just excellent movie. If you haven't seen it, it's fantastic. And I was so excited, I pre-ordered it around in December. I pre-ordered the DVD so it would ship as soon as I got it. So mid-April, it ships, and it was perfect for my STEAM class. So of course, engineering, mathematics, science, technology. So Hidden Figures, if you haven't seen, if you aren't familiar with it, it was a movie is a movie. It's about African American women who worked as mathematical computers for what became NASA. It was the predecessor to NASA. And ultimately, they did lead to doing the math that people, like the first, that led us into the space race, with Russia and with the United States. So it was these women, their calculations, that really got us to that platform. So, being the science dork that I am, and my husband's a Earth and space science teacher, so he's into the space science stuff, I had to show this. I was super excited. So, of course, it's good for all kids, but the fact that these were African American women that were doing these things was just, beyond my wildest dreams. Is oh my gosh, this is perfect. And I definitely wanted to show it to all my kids. I was only able to show it to about 25 of my students because it's who I have for STEAM this quarter. It's definitely going to be like number one on my list to show to all my kids next year whenever I have them in STEAM. And when I showed it to them, I was so excited to see how engaged all of my students were. It wasn't just the African American students. It wasn't just because they could watch a movie or something like that. So one of the things that I really like about this that really made me think about how different this was we had showed this. It actually ended up taking like 4 days to show. But the reason why is I would see the kids start to talk and start to murmur. And I'm like, okay, they're telling me I need to pause this for a minute. They're not understanding something, or they want to share what they're thinking or feeling. So then they would either ask me questions, or because there were some of the things that, the racial things that were happening then and what we deal with now are very different. They were like, well, why are these women going out in the rain to go to the bathroom to a whole other building and things? And I had to explain, okay, there weren't bathrooms in this building for the African Americans to use. And, the kids were like, why? And, so that was just interesting to realize for all of the kids to realize. And it was the black kids, too, that were sitting there going, that's just stupid. I'm like, yeah, it was, So to have those discussions and have all of the kids see each other question about, why things were that way and how the things have changed. But we also had discussions on, are some things still like that? Yes. Do we still have far to come? Yes, we do. So those were interesting conversations. So one of the days, too, the kids were supposed to go down to band. Sometimes to get all of the band students together so that they can practice, we'll have a special band practice during one of the special area classes. So it would be all the kids can go down and practice at once, 80, 100 kids. So I had kids that were here, and I looked at them. I was like, aren't you guys supposed to be down in band? I know there's 4 or 5 boys that were all drumming all the time. I know they were part of the percussion. And they were like, no, we want, and they wouldn't tell me why they wanted to stay. I was like, what are you doing? Go to band. You're supposed to go, you have a concert. And they were like, I was like, wait a minute. You don't want to miss the next part. They were like, yeah, I had to promise. They were yelling at me. I was like, I promise I will not show the next part of this movie until you guys come back. So there was 4 boys, just happened to be all African American. They did not want to miss the next portion of the movie. And each day, sometimes they were starting in the back, and then they would just sneak up, and they're sitting in the front row by the end of the movie, and or coming up and sneaking up to me and asking me things. So it was just really interesting to see all those things. So it brought up a lot of questions, a lot of things that they wanted to to understand, and that was something that showing them that it doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter that you're male or female. This was just something. And this was just showing it in a normal class and just being there. And it wasn't like, oh, let's show this, awesome movie that just, that celebrates black people. No, it was just, here's a good movie. It just happens to have black people in it. And that was just how it was. And it was really, really beneficial. And it wasn't just because it was a good movie. By all means, I've shown Jurassic Park, and I didn't have the kids cheering at Jurassic Park like I did for this movie. So that's something that was just really, really special. So I heard the buzzer go off. So I guess that means I can't read the other letter from Brittany Vasco.
Brittany should get her turn. So you can pretend you're Brittany.
Okay. Okay, so.
But Brittany doesn't go off, into other areas.
Tangents?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll read this. This is why I don't like talking in front of adults. My kids like tangents because they're tangenty. All right. All right, so I will read Brittany's letter without tangents, okay? It says, Dear Gateway School Board and Administration, I hope you are all doing well this evening. I apologize for not being able to be there in person to speak about the importance of culturally responsive teaching, but appreciate your consideration and support in this matter. I want to share a few culturally responsive teaching activities and strategies that I have done in the various grades that I've taught. My hope in sharing these are to reinforce the great need for culturally responsive teaching to be incorporated into every classroom, and also how easy it can be when the correct support and resources are provided. I think it's important to note that culturally responsive teaching is not something to do in addition to what we are required to do and teach, but instead it's a revamping or bettering of our teaching and content. When CRT is implemented, every student in our care feels respected, valued, and loved, no matter what their culture and background. When CRT is incorporated, a more meaningful education can be attained by all students. Here are just a few strategies and activities that I have done to better my teaching in my classroom for my students. After all, our students deserve only the best. So here's the example she has. It says, we are constantly reading books and having very meaningful conversations about various cultures and lifestyles that promote respect and acceptance. Some of these books are The Crayon Box That Talked by Shane DeRolf, Whoever You Are by Mem Fox, Each Kindness by Jacqueline Woods, Fair Trade Matters, and all this is just a brief list of books I have recently used. There are countless more that can be used. I wrote a year-long curriculum called What a Wonderful World. These lessons taught during our social studies block and focus on various aspects of cultures. For example, families around the world, schools around the world, holidays, etc. During these lessons, students are exposed to other ways of life in our community, country, and around the world. These lessons have added to the comfortable, welcoming environment in our classroom, and the kiddos who are from different cultures and backgrounds comfortably share their culture regularly now. They have even been the teacher for various aspects and brought in pictures and artifacts for us to learn about. Some parents have even come in to share their culture. What a gift this has been to the students and myself. Where in the world are you from was a lesson that is something we did to coincide with our social studies chapter 4 lessons about immigration. During this lesson, the kiddos learned about their family history. Going into this, I knew this would be extremely challenging as the topic of slavery and forced immigration would be brought up. This uncomfortable topic was, in my opinion, necessary to briefly discuss because it is part of our past, as horrible as it is. Learning about these evil, unjust actions that happened in the past can help us make sure our actions are better, more equitable, and compassionate in the present and future. That was what we focused on most and what we can do to make the present and future better. There was a STEAM lesson where students created a home from around the world of their choice with limited materials and resources. We then discussed how even in our classroom, our homes and cultures are different and how it's important to recognize this. When recognizing this, it is not to decide if one is better or right or wrong, just that there is a diversity in our lives that adds excitement and new learning opportunities for us all. We also discussed how important it is to help those who are not as fortunate as us, both in our community and around the world. There was a set of fair trade lessons. So after learning about supply and demand and various equal rights movements, we learned about what fair trade is. We discussed how this can both help and hurt various people in different cultures and how we can make sure that our actions support others rather than hurting them. There was a Words of Wisdom Wednesday, is a morning work activity where I share a quote from someone from a different culture who has made a positive difference in the world. The kiddos read the quote, infer what it means, and journal about it. After we discuss what they think it means, how they can apply the lesson to their life, and then we learn about the person, their country, and the culture of their origin. Their favorite that we did this with was Gandhi. We do morning yoga most mornings to close our morning meeting. This simple and brief exercise helps us to all focus and energize ourselves for the day ahead. There have been occasions where we have to skip over this part because of a packed schedule, and the kiddos are disappointed. This was a brief sharing of how I have, and how really anyone could, incorporate CRT in my classroom. The possibilities of how this can be done are endless, but in order to be able to do this well, it would be in the district's best interest to hire an equity director. This person could be an invaluable asset to Gateway's diverse population. Since I'm not there tonight to answer any questions you may have, please don't hesitate to email me with any questions or concerns you have, and I'd be happy to clarify anything. So, Brittany Vasco.
Buena Smith Dudley, am I saying that correctly?
Timing!
Wow. Well, I do apologize for coming in a little late tonight. This is a situation that I've expressed before that I lived. 1972, 1973, we had petitions at the high school. And the petition simply asked that we could all be represented, that when we went to a prom, there would be a variety of music. When we were in a classroom, we would have materials that would reflect a variety of us. Why would we sit here in 2017 and debate the issue? Or even if we feel that this is an important issue, why would we hesitate to do the best that we can? The best that we can. It takes someone that is trained, that is educated, that understands the situation, either has walked through it or has been educated to understand it, to be able to address it. What bothers me is that it's not just an issue, it's our children, it's our students. And I don't think anyone in this room would want to deny our students an education that will prepare them for a real world that's diverse. The tragedy that happened just a couple days ago in Baltimore, I believe that if we had teaching that was CRT teaching, that addressed implicit bias, if we just taught kids to be sensitive, to be tolerant, to know about another culture, to appreciate each other, we could avoid a lot of tragedies, like the murder that happened on that college campus. I don't see an issue to debate. Forgive me. I see an imperative that we cannot ignore our situation. It's not something we can sweep under a rug and say, well, we'll do the best we can. We either do something effective or we reap the results of our ineffectiveness. Thank you.
Thank you.
Christy Capera? Here. Lorraine?
Lorraine Lewis Burke, Sweet Leaf Drive. Thank you for once again allowing me the opportunity to speak to you. And I pray that I do it without emotions. I was born in Ahoskie, North Carolina, during the days of segregation. The school that I attended was Robert L. Vann. And some of you may know that name because he's the founder of the Pittsburgh Courier, past tense. He's also my bloodline. Being in a school, African American was not a name back then. Being in a Negro black school, our material came down from Raleigh, and those things that I got to see and was taught were books such as Dick, what's the other name goes with it? And Spot, and other things that we didn't relate to in a sense. So our teachers, we're all in one huge building, connected. So from first grade, there was no kindergarten then, from first grade through 12th, those teachers put together programs instructional programs so that it was incorporated so we could identify with what we were being taught. I moved from there, that is, my family moved from North Carolina to New York, to Brooklyn. Can I have that book down there? It was a drastic change for me because now I am in a place where the majority, have you ever heard of Bensonhurst? It made the news back here where a black male was innocently killed back in the 90s. But I went to this school and it was hard to fit in because, again, what we're talking about here, the teaching was not relating to me. I wasn't relating to what was being taught. In the 10th grade, I decided I was going to quit school. But I had a Jewish teacher who took me aside and said, I got to talk to you. You got 2 reasons that you cannot quit. One, the color of your skin, and the other is because you're a female. I will keep you in school. If you promise you'll do it, I'll keep you in school and put you through a program called co-op. That is, I worked a week and I went to school a week until I graduated. This book will show you I graduated with almost 1,500 students, and out of 1,500 students you will find 8 that have color to their skin. That included me and my first cousin. Thank God, because I did end up going to college down in Virginia afterwards. But what I'm saying to you, what a difference the South made, where I was around that I was comfortable and how it was being taught so I could relate to it, versus what happened when I went to New York and how it was being taught and I didn't feel like I could learn. I didn't feel like I was a part of. But I'm going to emphasize again, I praise God because a Jewish man took interest in me and said, we got to talk. And because of his caring, I'm standing in front of you and I graduated. That's the importance of using this achievement gap in Gateway and make a difference so that all of our children, it's all of us, not just in the school, but the communities, the community and the surrounding communities will benefit from it, because if we're the example, we'll be able to help them. And I thank you for the opportunity.
Anybody else wish to speak on agenda items? Seeing none? Section A, minutes of previously held meetings. And this is resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors approved the minutes of the following previously held meetings, which is the study session meeting, April 4th, Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting, regular board meeting, a Budget and Finance Committee meeting, and the Policy Committee meeting.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Mr. Davenport, second by Mr. Nola. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Section B, list of bills, Mr. Shutt.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Section B, resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors approves Sections B1 list of bills, B2 monthly financial statements, and B3 budget transfers as listed in Section B of the Tuesday, May 23rd, 2017 regular board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Nola, second by Ms. Byrne. Question, comments, Section B? Seeing none, can we have a roll call, Bonnie?
Mrs. Cerucci.
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich.
Aye.
Mr. Nola.
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mr. Stubenbort.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mrs. Byrne.
Aye.
We have nothing tabled. Moving on from Section C. Section D, Personnel Agenda, Ms. Crump.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors accepts and approves the personnel agenda items 1 through 8 as listed in Section D for the regular board meeting of Tuesday, May 23rd, 2017. We apologize for all the additions that we've added since the study session, but due to the lateness of the meeting and school ending, we needed to add several at the last. For under leaves of absence, we'll call attention to, we have 8 additional leaves that we've added since the last meeting. Employment and extended school year, the same as prior. Early literacy was also discussed in the agenda. Supplemental contracts under issuance for Tarita Allen, that's just a clarification. We have hired her previously, but at that time we had a prorated amount, and this just justifies what the prorated amount is. For Mr. Stiles, that's for the boys varsity soccer coach. We're adding that on this evening because they have some additional things that they would like to get started as soon as possible, which is why we did that. Under 6, volunteers. We've added quite a few volunteers, and that's for all the field trips and school parties that are scheduled for the last part of May and 1st of June. Kelly substitute, staffing services was on the agenda item, and then we've added for recruitment advertising to approve and authorize a year-long slot posting with Monster.com in the amount of $1,200 for the 2017-18 school year. That will allow us to have a Monster ad all year long to be utilized however we want. So if one week we need a coach, we could put it up for a coach. If the next week we need substitute food service workers, we can use it however we want to at no additional charges.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Mr. Steubenport, second by Mr. Nola. Questions, comments on section D? Seeing none, Bond, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Lapsevich.
Aye.
Mr. Nola.
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mr. Steubenport.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning. Aye. Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mrs. Byrne. Aye. Mrs. Cerucci. Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Section E, conferences and conventions. Short.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. I'll defer to Dr. Chakey to handle conferences and conventions.
Thank you, Mr. Short. Resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors approves and authorizes the following conferences and conventions as listed in Section 8, regular board meeting of Tuesday, May 23rd.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Mr. Steubenport, second by Mr. Nola. Questions, comments?
Can we just go through the ones that were not on at the study session?
They were all added after the study session.
Yeah.
They were all added.
We have Mrs. Crump, who is attending the Steel Eagle Leadership Institute through PASBO. Janine Ribble, National Autism Conference from Penn State. Mr. Murphy has in California or joining Mr. Norsborough at the conference in Philadelphia. First time it's been offered here in the state, national conference. And on the back page, we have an SRO officer that has recently been hired that will be replacing an officer that was initially scheduled for the training.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Bonnie, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Nola.
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mr. Steubenport.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning. Aye. Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mrs. Byrne.
Aye.
Mrs. Cerucci. Aye. Mr. Lapsevich.
Aye.
Motion carries. Section F, administrative resolutions. Mr. Short.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. We're going to be bouncing around through administrators. We have a number of items on the agenda here. The majority, Mr. Schott will be handling. However, we'll start off with Dr. Rossi discussing the policy final approval for bullying, cyberbullying.
So the final approval for policy 249, Exhibit A. Final approval of the following policy placed on 30-day public display beginning March 21st, 2017. And that's just required to be reviewed every 3 years.
Item number 2, appointment of school board secretary, Ms. Crump.
Approve in accordance with Section 404 of the PA School Code the appointment of Bonnie Isha as school board secretary for a term commencing on July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 21. Section number 3, appointment of the school board treasurer for the 17-18 fiscal year. Approve in accordance with Section 404 of the Pennsylvania Public School Code and continue the appointment of Paul Schott, MSED, as school board treasurer for a one-year period commencing July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2018.
Item number 4, Dr. Rossi.
The Learning Garden for Evergreen. Approve the agreement between the Gateway School District and Grove Pittsburgh, the kitchen community, to work together to build learning gardens that engage outdoor classrooms that connect kids to real food, increase academic achievement, and drive community engagement as depicted in Exhibit B.
Item number 5, we have a student teacher. Once again, Indiana University has reached out to us. We have a art teacher that will be split between the elementary and secondary levels with Mr. Carson and Mrs. Severson. Item number 6, facility agreements. Dr. Shaky.
Several facility agreements in this section. The Atlantic Coast Baseball Tournament, baseball and also softball, U.S. Army Field Band Concert, and Gateway Lacrosse alumni game.
And I make notice to the board that the lacrosse alumni game was added after the study session that came in from Mr. Ravesti and Mr. Washington, the coach. Item number 7, and a number of items after that, Mr. Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Short. Appointment of school dentist for 17-18 fiscal year. Continued appointment of Richard M. Alpitar Jr., DMD, to continue serving as district school dentist for 17-18 fiscal year at the rate of $5 per student dental examination. Next item, approval of depository district funds for the 17-18 fiscal year. Approved in accordance with Section 621 of the Pennsylvania School Code and designate PNC Bank Miracle Mile Office continue as district's depository for a one-year period from July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2018. Next item, approval of investment of district funds with financial institutions for 17-18 fiscal year. Approved in accordance with Section 440.1 of the Pennsylvania Public School Code, continue the investment of district funds with one or more of the following financial institutions: PNC Bank, Pennsylvania School District Liquid Asset Fund, and any other appropriate FDIC-insured financial institution not specifically listed above, in accordance with the collateralization requirements established by the Pennsylvania School Code during the period July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2018. Next item, approval of Forbes Road Career and Technology Center budgets for 17-18 fiscal year. Approve the following budgets: the operating budget, which represents no change at $6,362,458, and administrative budget, which also represents no change at $304,760 for the 17-18 fiscal year, and that is also depicted in Exhibit C. Next item is the extension of service agreement with CTI Water Treatment Solutions for the continuation of district heating and cooling water treatment services for the 17-18 fiscal year. Again, approve the continuation of the service agreement with CTI Water Treatment Solutions for required heating and cooling water treatment testing and inspection services in the total amount of $4,500 for a 17-18 fiscal year, and that's depicted in Exhibit D. Approval of disposal service agreement with Shredded for 17-18 fiscal year. Approved to continue the records disposal service agreement with Shredded for the secure collection and off-site disposal of district records at unit prices as indicated in the customer service agreement for purge service as depicted in Exhibit E. Next item is the approval of purchase 3 handheld metal detectors. Approve the purchase of 3 handheld metal detectors from Galls in the total amount of $439.27. Next item is intensive behavior support and behavior support student educational services through Adelphi Educational Services for 17-18 fiscal year. Approve the continued utilization of intensive behavior support and behavior support student educational services from Adelphi Education Services at the various regular and special education student service rates for a 17-18 fiscal year as depicted in Exhibit F. Next item, which was added subsequent to the prior study session meeting, is also another agreement for Adelphi in terms of the alternative education agreement. Approve the alternate education agreement with Adelphi Education Services for a 17-18 fiscal year as depicted in Exhibit G. Next item, purchase and payment of maintenance department equipment during the 16-17 fiscal year, specifically for a Toro 6000 Series Z mower at the amount of $9,693.82, a 2017 Ford F-250 four-wheel drive truck in the amount of $25,860 through Day Fleet, and the following items through Murray Auto Electric: Meyer Snowplow, Maxim Tailgate Lift, electric inverter, as for the amounts depicted. Grand total of all items to be purchased, $45,668.41. Next item, district donation received. Nikasi LLC, DBA Dad's Pub and Grub, in the amount of $400 for teachers treasurers at Mossad Middle School. Next item is the continued appointment of school physician for 17-18 fiscal year. Stephen R. Wolf, DO, MPH, is with the group of physicians from Forbes Regional Hospital to continue serving district school physician for 17-18 fiscal year for the total amount of $7,758. Next item is to adopt, advertise, and place on public display the proposed final general fund budget for 17-18 fiscal year via the PDE 2028 form in the amount of $75,960,000. Please note that this document and some associated documents would be posted on district's website tomorrow morning. Also, please note that the final public hearing will be held on Tuesday, June 6, 2017 at 6 p.m. in the high school LGI. And the final budget will be considered for adoption at the board's regular meeting to be held on June 20th, 2017. Also, please note that there is no real estate tax increase included in this budget. But again, this is just a requirement of Act 1. The district adopt a proposed final budget. Work continues on the budget as we move forward to final adoption in June. Next item is award of a written quote for capital reserve fund, capital repair project for a 17-18 fiscal year, specifically for building envelope repairs at the high school auxiliary gymnasium to C.E. Davis Contracting LLC in the amount of $17,900 to be paid from the district's capital reserve fund budget during the 17-18 fiscal year. Next item is to approve the award of the written proposal for the mechanical rooftop unit replacement work at Ramsey Elementary School to Train U.S. Incorporated through the U.S. Communities Government Purchasing Alliance in the amount of $538,384 to be paid from the district's capital reserve fund budget during the 17-18 fiscal year. Next item, which was added subsequent to the study session meeting, is also another award of a written proposal specifically for HVAC computerized control system at the Ramsey Elementary School to Train U.S. Incorporated through U.S. Communities Government Purchasing Alliance in the amount of $64,314, and the HVAC computerized control system at the high school also to Train USA Incorporated through U.S. Communities Government Purchasing Alliance in the amount of $66,505 for a grand total of $130,819 to be paid for both HVAC computerized control system from the district's capital reserve fund budget during the 17-18 fiscal year. Next item is approve the addition of capital repair and improvement projects in the amount of $350,000 to the existing capital reserve fund budget previously approved on December 6, 2016 in the amount of $3,819,000, and the advertisement of bids for the applicable additional capital repair and improvement projects to be completed during the 17-18 fiscal year, and those projects are depicted in Exhibit H.
And item number 29, Achievement Gap Committee Framework for Equity Final Recommendations and Estimate of Cost. Listed below, you will see the recommendations that were developed and submitted for the board for approval tonight.
I make a motion to approve 1 through 20 only right now.
I second that motion.
I got a question, Coach.
Is
We
that
have a
one-
motion by
1
Chad.
through 20, Chad?
1 through 20? 1 through 20.
1 through 20.
Only 1 through 20, okay.
Fresh. I like to address the other ones in there.
Right, Chad, 1 through what, 20?
1 through 20, that would be the bottom of page 6.
We have a second.
Entirely.
Second by Ms. Byrne.
Question?
Questions, comments?
I got a question.
Mr. Lapsovich?
Is Mr. Brown still here?
Yeah, he's right there. He's in the doorway.
There it is.
Mr. Brown, on this big mower, power of 9600?
Yes.
How many bids did we get on that?
That's actually the CoStar price from E.H. Griffith.
It's what?
It is a state contract pricing, so we weren't required to get other bids because they have set numbers.
We couldn't find it anywhere cheaper than that?
Actually, the price of it was $13,000. with the state contract pricing, that is the discounted price.
Was that an old model?
Brand new.
Is it? I mean, your last year's model?
No,
Okay,
it's this year's model.
okay, thank you.
All right.
I had a question on number 10, Forbes Road one. Last meeting, I believe it was last meeting, I was told it was about 11% that we pay for Forbes. When I was asking if we can look at their schedule and see if they can adopt Gateway schedule to save money on transportation costs. And doing simple math, right, $71,000 out of the $304,000 administrative budget is 23%. I think it's a fair assessment to say we pay the lion's share of Forbes. And I just want to see if we did follow up with Forbes, if we've asked if they'll adopt our schedule, to be able to save money on transportation.
Even though their calendar has been adopted, they have agreed to look at it, though with numbers, myself and Mr. Schott looked at it. We do not send the majority of students to Forbes compared with the other sending districts.
So we
Why
don't
do we
send
pay
that
more?
many kids, but we pay 23%.
Why do we pay more and send less kids?
We're actually, as a matter of fact, we just received the bill that we'll be presenting at the June study session. We were actually the ranked fourth
Lowest.
in terms of the amount of kids. There were actually 3 districts that were ahead of the district in terms of students enrolled at Forbes.
So there are really only 4 districts paying for all of Forbes then?
No, I mean,
we're paying 23%. I would expect if districts send more kids, they would pay more than 23%, right?
Well, again, that's the total billing that we received. Our total billing was about $746,000.
We can send you that document that we received that will include numbers and payments to Forbes from the area school districts.
Okay. But have we, you said we are looking into the transportation issue?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
And number 16, are all of these, Mr. Brown, are all of these, the bottom note says that it's like for the 17-18 fiscal year thing, but we're purchasing them now to do whatever. So when did we plan on getting all these? What was the part? Tell me like all of that whole section.
Well, there's
45,000.
You have the truck, you have the lawnmower. The lawnmower and the truck we were putting into next year's budget. The lawnmower, we were able to save some money on rock salt this year and some other items, so we had the money in this year, so we wouldn't have to do it out of next year's budget. The vehicle with the snow plow and all, Mr. Schott actually suggested that we move it from next year for the same reason into this year's.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
It's on numbers 1
through
through
20.
20.
Mr. O'Donnell. Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mr. Stubenbort.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mrs. Byrne.
Aye.
Mrs. Cerrucci.
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich.
One second. Aye.
Mr. Nola.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Make a motion to approve 21 and 22.
Second.
Motion to approve 21 and 22 made by Mr. Stubenport, second by Mr. O'Donnell.
Wait, 1 second.
Take your time.
Okay.
Questions or comments on those two?
Yes.
Go.
Mr. Knoll.
All right.
Mr. Brown, stick around.
Mr. Brown, will you step to the podium, please, so people watching
I
at
just
home
got a
can-
question for Mr. Brown on, I guess it's 21. All right. If I just want to make sure I get this straight, and then you can fill in the blanks that I don't know, I think. I think we had an estimate for a budgeted amount for 21. Correct? These are the rooftop units on Ramsey, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. I have the number. And then we sent it out to bid and we got 4 bids back, correct?
Not sure if it was 4 or 5, but
I have.
Yes.
I think I do. All right, and then we did not rebid it, but then a different company came in with a different bid. After we rejected the first 4, it was a different company
yes.
than those ones that came in. All right, I mean, I understand that it's less, but I'm trying to piece together how this transpired, because maybe if we went back to rebid these, maybe these guys would have came in lower too.
Well,
I don't know what we did.
Well, we did speak to those companies, the low bidders. What they came in with was out of what we thought we wanted to pay. We had to relook at what we were asking for. We went back to these companies. I also went to Train, which is the company with this price. They were the ones that actually wanted to work with us and worked out a way to be able to do what we needed. The other companies, we weren't able to get that out of. This price is based on, again, a state contract pricing, so at that point, we did not have to rebid it.
Yeah, but this is for $538,000, like a vast majority of it. That's the first thing. And then second thing, if you can tie it into 22, we're giving them another $64,000, and then another $66,000 for some other related things. It's related to those, actually. 'cause
It is related.
So that's another 130, so we're talking 538.
668.
$668,000. That should be rebid, I believe. I'm not saying that this might be the best price ever, but here's the deal with it. I don't know how to say this except for, we sent out an RFP for people. They respond to us. The numbers we didn't like, I assume we changed something.
Yes.
And then took a bid from a different company and didn't like rebid it. Like, you know, like, it just doesn't seem right. Like, there's just something, I'm not saying that it's not right, I'm not saying anybody's doing anything wrong. It just,
And on top of that, we did a phone vote.
it just doesn't seem
a week ago.
right. Because then we're giving them an additional amount of money that's actually more than the other, like, it's just funny, actually. I don't know what, like, maybe these other ones would have liked to bid these other things, and maybe they were included. I don't know what they're including. That's my only problem with it, too, so. Just, if you could fill me in on how that transpired, I would feel much better.
Okay, well, after the bid that we rejected, we were looking at all different ways to achieve the end goal that we needed, which was the rooftop units. Speaking to the other companies, they weren't coming up with the ideas and the prices to work on this. They wanted to continue to utilize what they were bidding, which was way over our price. Train was the only one that was able to come in and provide what we needed at a better cost. So we did work on that. We talked to them. The bid process does take many, many weeks to go back through, and under our time constraints, that was kind of handcuffed us to be able to do that.
I just think from the whole transparency issue, it doesn't look good. I mean, that's a large chunk of change, over $500,000. We put out the bid. We had several bids. We say, no, we don't like any of these. We're just going to go talk to one company. And, yeah, we like that one. And we're going to approve it. We're going to change it, not get rebid from the other people that we changed the bid on. So we use the information from the 4 people that put in bids, go to another company, change what we were asking for, and then we say, okay, that sounds good. Let's approve it. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I got a phone call, what day was that? Last week, and this was supposed to be a phone call vote. Is that accurate?
No. We didn't move it on a phone vote.
You would call me, I could pull up the email if you want to pull up the email.
Yes.
Okay, while you're looking that up, let me ask a question. So the new company's Train's the manufacturer. The previous 4 bids, were they manufacturers directly or were they HVAC type companies?
They were HVAC type companies as well, which is what Train is.
But were they selling their own manufactured product or were they quoting other?
No, they were quoting what the architect specified, which was a custom unit, which made it way over our price point.
So wait, so.
Neil, maybe can help here.
Well, no, wait, because yes, 1 second, you can. But I want to, so we're saying that the architects designed something. We sent that out for bid.
It's too expensive.
It came in too much, it was too expensive or whatever. Okay, I'm okay with that part. But then, did the architects rebid it, resend it out? We didn't resend it out. I don't know how this, it doesn't tie together for me. I recognize that it's a significant difference. I'm trying to find out why it's a significant difference. Like, what did we change? Why is it different? Because obviously, these people bid something different than these other people, I think.
And before you interject, Steve, and just to correct the record, I do have an email, May 9th, board members, the following resolution is on the May 2nd study session meeting agenda for discussion will be on the May 23rd agenda for your approval. Because of timing, the items that need to be purchased and delivered for summer work begin. I was asked to email each of you and let you know I'll be doing a call around tomorrow for your vote of approval, just so that the record is straight. Yeah.
Okay. And I think Bonnie did call.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, Bob, but when the initial bids came in and they were too high, we then went to the architects, and I think you had a conference call with the architects, and I was there, and what we said was that this system is too complicated and too expensive. We want you to go back to the drawing board and come back with an alternative method of providing air conditioning for the 7 units that are bad on the top of Ramsey. Am I okay so far?
Yes.
Okay. So through that process, I think 2 things happened. Number one, with the help of the architects and I think Train, am I right? We came up with a different configuration. One of the differences, for example, is that instead of providing controls and air for each classroom, we moved to a system that would provide controls for each pod. The advantage to that, as an example, would be that if one pod containing a number of classrooms was in the sun in the morning and it was hot, we could cool that pod. If another pod was in the shade and not requiring air conditioning, then we wouldn't do that. But by simplifying the system, we reduced the cost. That's number one. Then secondly, we went to the U.S. Commodities Government Purchasers Alliance, correct me again if I'm wrong, Bob, and made the purchase, or proposing to make the purchase of the equipment there. Am I right so far?
Yeah.
Okay. And then coming back, Train provides the engineering and the installation of this less complicated system. And that's how we came up with the lower price. Does that help?
Well, I still have a few questions, because I'm not here to say which air conditioner, where the gadgets and gadgets are is best, but we are here and we should be informed. So you just said that you were present for a phone call with the architect. When was that phone call?
A number of weeks ago.
A number of weeks ago. So couldn't the board have been informed a number of weeks ago that this process, like an update?
I think I did, the last board meeting, put these numbers out on the table and asked if there were any questions and answered whatever questions there were. One of the things
Well, this was added after.
Well, one of the things I would think the board would expect out of George and Valerie and myself and Bob is that that we work through to a set of solutions to provide what the board has asked us to provide in the most economical fashion. And that's pretty much what we did. Bids came back, they were too high, we went back to the drawing boards. Essentially, there were a number of calls, I think I was only involved on one, where we said, listen guys, that's too expensive, we're not going to buy that. We want these numbers broken down. And the alternative was this alternate system of not conditioning the air for every classroom, but rather for every pod. Then we went to the other companies and asked them for ideas as well. How can we address this issue and reduce these costs? The other three didn't provide us with any. Train provided us with this solution along with our architects. And instead of having Train buy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we went to commodities where we can get those products at reduced prices. So that's how it came to be. And I would think the board would want us to work through problems like that.
Yeah, I think for the taxpayers, it's better. I mean, they save $30,000 essentially. That's a good thing. That's a plus.
And so 3 other companies were consulted.
All of them were consulted.
We don't have an official response, but.
Correct, Bob? All of them. All of the other companies were consulted after the bids came in.
We had spoke to them and their ideas, they just weren't coming through with feasible ideas.
But there could be other companies that would have put in a bid for an RFP
Had we had the
Done the
time
Train
to do
model
that, yes.
Yeah, but if Train comes up with a solution, and Train is the one that's willing to try to work with us to lower the price, to turn around and just say, thanks, Train, for your ideas, we're gonna go over here now.
Well, it's
I
kinda
kind
what
of
we did.
understand the relationship
Yeah,
part.
similar to what we
And
did with
somebody
ABM.
who, exactly.
But
Exactly.
the fact of the matter is, we put together an RFP. We declined all of them. The price is out there for everyone in the world to see. We then change it to something that we want, and we give one person a bite at the apple, and we don't put the RFP out for other people. That's the problem. I think the taxpayers are probably happy they saved $30,000. But the problem is, maybe we could have saved $60,000. Maybe we could have saved $70,000. Maybe the board could have brought this up earlier and had time to go through the process had we been made aware of these conversations with the architect and with Train and with others.
But if Bob
So,
is
I
saying that
think
he
it's
actually went back to those companies,
But there's
and,
other companies. There's more than 4 companies. So
Those were the
four
only
companies
ones that bid
on the different system.
on the original RFP, yes.
Thanks. So I'm not going to continue to beat the dead horse. I just think, again, we're getting back to the transparency thing. It's not hard. We get all these emails and text messages about everything else, about a fire alarm going off and stuff. If we're talking with the architect and we're changing a bid and we're getting it, just pass the information to the board. I think three weeks would have been sufficient. We could have talked and worked a lot of this out, as opposed to we come into the board meeting, we have a new thing on the agenda, and
No,
okay, what is it?
we discussed this at the study session. Am I
22 was
wrong?
added after the study.
This was on the study session.
22, there's an
Yes.
asterisk, was added after the study session.
Yeah, but then we added the 130,000.
Right, but not the
additional.
HVAC
That's all right.
system that we
Thank you,
did.
Right, but that, yeah, I agree, except, yeah, we did, but we didn't have that time because we actually did a call around for 21. We actually did a call around for 21 already, I believe. I'm not positive about that,
yeah, we did.
but people called me and I voted, so I think it's, but then 22 was added, and it's just coincidental that it's the same company, because obviously they're the one thing is directly related to it. I mean, it seems to me, just an untrained person that says, the Ramsey Elementary HVAC computerized control system. Whatever that, I assume that goes with the units.
It does.
So-
There was another budget number in our 3.8 million that covered the control systems, and we were
Yeah, I
able to get these numbers into that, which are well under our budget number. Again, they are state contract prices that pertains to it. So, you know.
I'm in agreement. I actually am happy that the number's lower. I just wish that we would, in general, would try to plan a little bit better so that so that we can see the things coming easier.
Neil-
Like for instance,
Hey, Neil.
these people may have wanted to bid on this part of it too.
Neil.
But now they're not because we're getting to something.
Neil, I'll try to do that in the future, okay? I'll make an effort to put even more information out. I understand what you're saying.
I just think it's not even just the information, it's the timing. We try to rush things. A lot of times we should slow down, make sure we get it right.
And that brings up the phone vote. Why? Why the phone vote?
Why is it
How
on,
many-
why is it on here if we voted for it already?
I just read you the email, and did you not receive the
Yeah,
phone call?
yes, I mean, we voted for it, why is it even on here?
Well, exactly. But the better question is, why are we voting behind closed doors over the phone when it's a week later and the public doesn't even have any input. And by the way, it's not even something we bid. It's a $500,000 expenditure, and it happens time and time again. In this budget, in this meeting alone, we're spending over $1.5 million on stuff that was added after a meeting. Why do we have study sessions? We should just have one a week, get the information 7 hours beforehand, and let's vote on it. Because that's what it seems like we're doing for
No,
half
but
these
we do
things.
need to have this
So that's
project
where-
running
but
this
where I'm
summer
getting-
so it's ready
that's
for
where
fall.
That's where I'm getting upset.
It's all
is
good.
We continually do this. We continually put numbers out there. We continually hide stuff from the public, and there's no open and public discussion. That's disturbing.
All right.
That's all I have.
21 and 22, or 22.
22. You want to take them separate, or you want to?
Together.
I'm not really sure.
What was the motion for, Bon?
21 and 22.
21 and 22. It was
Any other questions or comments? All right, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Ritter,
Aye.
Mr. Stubenbort,
No due to lack of transparency.
Mrs. Warning,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mrs. Byrne,
Aye.
Mrs. Cerucci,
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich, Mr. Nola,
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Aye.
Make a motion to approve 23.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Stubenport, second by Mr. O'Donnell.
Okay, I have a few questions.
Questions or comments?
Buildings and Ground Committee meeting, April 6th. We have an attendance for that? Or just, by show of hands, can we say who was at that meeting?
Was that the one you came to at the end, Scott? That, yeah,
It was,
I was there.
it was on a Thursday.
And
Well, your chair, can you, what board members were present?
I don't remember who was all present.
One or two?
Well, I'm trying to remember. Who was there with me? Scott was there.
I was not there.
He was not.
I was there. Were you there, John?
I can't, I'll have to look it up.
Okay, I'm not sure.
The minutes are in there.
Okay,
But so,
so one or two people, okay. The Budget and Finance Committee meeting on Thursday, May 18th, who was there? I think there was 4 of us
I was
in attendance? 4 board members, okay. So we're approving $350,000 added after a study session that 2 board members attended the Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting on. 4 board members approved the Budget and Finance Committee. 2 members that didn't approve that, or that didn't attend those, can you even tell me what items are on here?
yeah, I can.
I said to any members that weren't present at those meetings, right? We're talking about spending $47,000 on windows, we're talking about spending $50,000 on redoing the auxiliary gym floor. We're talking about spending a lot of money that is going towards budgetary issues. We're going through a budgetary process. Again, I just don't see why this is thrown in there last minute with a total of 4 board members actually even seeing the information
I didn't add it.
and no input.
I didn't add it.
I moved to table 23.
Second.
So motion and second to table. Motion by Mr. Stubenport, second by Ms. Cerucci.
Yes.
We have a roll call?
Mr. Stubenbort,
All right.
Mrs. Warning,
No.
Mr. Williams,
No.
Mrs. Byrne,
Aye.
Mrs. Cerucci,
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich,
Aye.
Mr. Nola,
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell,
No.
Mr. Ritter.
No.
Motion carries to table.
I make
Motion carries table.
a motion to approve 24.
Second.
I have lots of discussion.
Motion by Mr. Stubenport, second by Mr. Nola. Questions, comments?
I have a bunch of questions. So we had, I think the first hour of the meeting was comprised of mostly individuals coming and speaking to the achievement gap.
Mr. Stubenmore, can I interrupt just for a moment, please?
Of course.
Just ask the chair, can we recess for about 5 minutes, please?
I need a break, sorry. I drank too much water.
Or move we recess for 5 minutes? Just sit here. Or we just sit here for 5 minutes? Just helping out my colleague.
Did you do recess or?
We'll take a 5-minute recess, is that what you're gonna say?
I moved.
You can say that.
5 minutes to make a 5-minute recess.
Yeah, just do it in place, don't leave.
Can we prove we can do that?
We'll take 5-minute recess.
Okay.
Ms. Weiss.
I'd like to make a motion to come back from our
Right.
hiatus.
So moved.
Okay, we're back.
Second.
All right.
Camera crew, you with us? They're good. Mr. Stubenport.
Very good.
Let me just remind everybody where we're at.
Yep.
Item 24.
24, Achievement Gap Committee Framework for Equity, final recommendation and estimate of cost.
Very good, thank you. So, for the viewing audience, for people here tonight, and for board members as well, this says Achievement Gap Committee, final recommendation. I believe it should read, I think it was a typo, it should read administration recommendation, final recommendation.
What's under the
Administrative recommendation.
Correct. So, there's two things tonight. One is under board member resolutions, which I might move to approve here shortly, which is the Achievement Gap proposal presented by the actual committee, encompassing a full-time equity coordinator, diversity consultant, CRP consultant, instructional coaching, and tutoring across all buildings. This one here today, we voted down, I believe it was 9-0, it might have been 8-1, but I believe it was 9-0, we voted down the full-time social worker. We didn't think that was a good solution. So the alternative, what we got was an equity coordinator or consultant for $30,000, diversity consultant, CRP consultant, and then the tutoring just about doubled. So I have a few questions I just want to walk through the administrations briefly. The tutoring, we had similar tutoring like this previously, correct? 4 days a week through the Hines grant.
I'll be honest with you, I was not a part of the Hines grant, that was Dr. Zeddy.
Okay, well, we did.
That's called a rhetorical
I mean,
question.
I'll be honest with you, I have a report from the Hines grant that indicated there was probably near $100,000 invested towards culturally responsive practices over 3 years.
Okay, so, and that's kind of what I'm getting at is, when we look at this, it looks very similar. It looks like it's the status quo.
Yeah.
It looks like.
Tutoring was less than probably 20,000.
Okay.
Okay.
And I know we had difficulty finding teachers.
For the record.
To actually tutor.
That is correct. We relied upon aides, substitutes.
Correct.
It was non-effective.
I completely agree. So that's why I'm questioning as to why we bumped that up to 75,000, and now we say, okay, we're gonna have tutoring 4 days a week, and we're gonna include busing as well. When we've looked at the activity buses and we've gone through busing, it seems every other year we go through the busing concern and we look at the busing, and Bonnie can definitely admit we go through this every year, and sometimes there's 5 people on a bus, and is it efficient, is it effective? I just don't think this is a solution. I think Steve created a committee. The committee met longer than it takes to birth a baby, as someone stated last night. So there's a lot of time and a lot of input put into the committee. They made a recommendation, and we've now come back with 2 completely separate recommendations outside of what he's asking. So when I look at this, I see things that we've done previously, and it looks like there's no buy-in. Right? It looks like, okay, we're going to throw money at tutoring. Well, if we only spent $20,000 on tutoring and you just said it was ineffective, how does quadrupling that amount now make it effective? Are we going to pay the kids to attend tutoring? Like, I just don't see what you do with $75,000 when the $20,000 was ineffective. And that's where the lion's share of this money comes from now, is for tutoring. So I'm asking the board to listen to everyone who spoke today, consider actually adopting the Achievement Gaps proposal, which would include an equity coordinator, which would include the diversity consultant, the CRP consultant.
Just so we're clear, was, for everyone here, was the recommendation, was that the one that you proposed to everyone last week?
Yeah, that was on board resolution. I think it somehow fell off of.
Okay, I just didn't, I wanted to make sure whether or not if it was the committee's or your proposal that went.
Can I just clarify something here?
Yes.
That, Chad, you keep saying between the administration and the committee's recommendation. And I have an email, just so everybody is on the same page. After our very last meeting, I was kind of being secretary that night, if you guys remember, and we were going around the room and we were trying to come up with our final recommendations, and we came up with 6 things. And I wrote them down, and then Ms. Neithamer said, can you please email that out to everybody? And I emailed everybody out, and the 6 recommendations of the committee, because you keep saying that, were: 1, the group would like to see diversity training offered to the staff. 2, we need equity goals or an equity policy created for the district. 3, an equity team or person/consultant hired or delegated, depending upon qualifications. So that one right there, that's where we seem to be arguing about. We kind of, I don't think as a committee, we even finalized what we thought. It says an equity team or person or consultant hired. Number 4 was a pilot school program for one school, which we've modified to 2. Number 5 was culturally responsive teaching, the overwhelming methods supported to raise the achievement gap. And number 6 was some type of program created to reach out to homes of underperforming students. Those were the 6 recommendations put forth by the committee August 24th, 2016.
And are those 6 embedded within that administrative recommendation?
So the 6 are embedded within both of them.
I'd have to walk
Right.
through it.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I mean, when
What
we
you
look.
said is correct, but those were the recommendations of the committee. The other thing that was repeatedly said by myself, and everybody understood it, was that whatever set of recommendations came out of the committee, it had to be approved by the administration, that we were not going to work at odds with the administration.
Actually, I don't think the committee actually mentioned tutoring.
So I think that establishing district-wide policy and equity goals, that's in the recommendation. Creating an equity team, that's there. Identifying a school, we identified 2, Cleveland and 2 schools. Yeah, we had suggested 1. Charlotte Daniel framework, teaching throughout the district and crosswalk with culturally responsive teaching pedagogy.
That's to ensure that over the last 3 years through the Heinz grant, where we've had nearly $100,000 invested into culturally responsive practices through our staff development, we have to ensure that our teachers are following through on the pedagogies learned from that $100,000 worth of
I completely
investment.
agree. So I think, I mean, we can go through, I think we can agree that all of those are met within both, and really the main difference is, one is saying an equity consultant for $30,000, one is saying an equity coordinator for a salary of over $100,000. Can we agree that that's the main difference?
I think the big difference is a full-time equity director versus a contracted part-time equity.
Which is what I'd like to focus on.
Really the big
And
difference.
the
And tutoring.
reason for the consultant would be we are in a pilot program.
Not only one.
Yeah, the other thing that we all need as a board to understand is that 125,000 recommended in yours does not include
We're piloting
markups.
the 2 schools.
So it's really 100 and, I'd have to ask Trish, but another 40 or 50,000 added on to that. So close to 200,000.
And then mark down 50% we get back from Piecers.
No, it's not marked down 50%. She can, only the Piecers portion is marked down 50%.
Correct.
Okay? Not the entire $40,000 or $50,000 markup.
Correct.
Okay?
So, I guess, I'm confused here. Number one, somehow the board proposal 1 came off of the agenda. Somehow
The board proposal one was voted down.
You voted it down.
We voted it down because we decided everybody
No.
didn't want a social worker.
Over the study session, that one.
I brought it up at a study session. I don't vote on things at a study session. We brought it up at a study session to discuss. It should have been on the agenda item for today. We had to print it out. I just forwarded Bonnie the email again that I had sent out as a board proposal. That should
You're
have been
talking
on
about your proposal.
I'm talking about the proposal that encompasses a full-time equity director.
He's talking about a board resolution from last study
Okay.
session.
I thought he meant the initial one that we voted down with the social worker.
Did we not vote 1 down?
Yes, we
Yeah,
voted down
we
administration's
voted the
full-time
one
social
down
worker.
last.
Right.
Last
exactly,
If
month.
anyone
yes.
thinks.
So let's be clear, we voted down a set of recommendations that met the criteria of the committee, okay? That is to create an outreach program, okay? Then you, if my memory is correct, then you proposed an alternative to that, which is a full-time equity director.
Correct.
Which is about 170 or 200,000. And that was proposed in a study session, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so
So it
here
should have
we
been
are.
on the agenda for
So
today.
here we are today.
Correct. So it wasn't on the agenda, but it should have been on the agenda. And the administration's recommendation, as of 10 o'clock this morning, was not on the agenda. Right? We got this email 7 hours prior to the meeting. So we're asked to vote on, again, something that the board received 7 hours prior to the meeting. Like this, it's almost insane that this is the 3rd time in a row that we're looking at something we get 7 hours beforehand, that we're supposed to vote on $135,000.
Would you like-
Versus $350,000.
Would you like to table it and give another month to mull it
No,
over
because
for the public?
I think what we're doing now is we're taking an item, and we're saying, okay, we recommend a full-time social worker, okay? So that's what everyone discussed, and you even defended it last time. We then said, okay, well, where's the data? Where's the proof? How does this help? And then everyone said, oh, I don't know. Maybe there isn't any. Maybe this doesn't work. So we voted down. 8-1 or 9-0, it was voted down. So then we hear nothing for 3 weeks. And then 7 hours before a meeting, we get what I guess appears to be a compromise or something that's supposed to appease people. And to me, I just think we're wasting money, honestly, if this is what we're planning on doing. If we're planning on spending $75,000 on tutoring, when we just said that $20,000 was ineffective, why are we wasting money? I would rather, I don't want to say I'd rather do nothing, but I'd rather just get back and say, if you guys are not going to approve the full-time equity director, if you can't see the value in that, if you can't see that there is a problem and that we have a choice, we can either do something to address the problem, or we can sit back and do the status quo that we've continued to do, then don't add in extra costs just to fluff it up. That's not going to appease anybody.
I think if you look at the bottom bullets, you would see the difference between the tutoring that was instituted with the Hines grant and what would be proposed this year, which means it would be intensive prescriptive tutoring based on having the teachers within the room, diagnostically assessing the students to determine the anchors and standards that they are deficient in along with the eligible content.
Great. And can we require students to stay for tutoring?
I would like to interject as well. So-
I just want that question answered. Can we require students to stay for tutoring?
Of course not.
Okay, thank you.
Well, it's not even that issue as well, Mr. Stephen Bort. You know, as chair of the tutoring program for RAMP, it's very difficult to even find tutors for the children that we need to have tutored this year. So my concern would also be, would we even have enough teachers willing to tutor afterwards?
And that is why the increase in money was devoted to the children. I believe that the money should be invested in the children for tutoring. And in order to do so, you must be able to entice and to get the professional employees are experts in the field of culturally responsive practices, along with our pedagogy and curriculum to offer tutoring.
I couldn't agree more, and that's why I think we should use those highly trained individuals and teach them and have an equity coordinator that's able to utilize them when they're in the classroom, when the students are required to be in school. Then you don't need a tutor. We're saying we should throw the problem to the end of the day.
So you're saying we don't need tutoring, is that what the audience is saying?
Can I say one thing real quick? I just want to, I recall, this was a couple months ago, we came in here and there was 2 recommendations. And I'm going to tell you how I know, because it was something that I said to Mr. O'Donnell after. There was a recommendation, okay, I don't know where they came from. I know what it was, the piece of paper that I was handed said, and it was similar to this right here. It said the estimated cost of the committee recommendations, and it had an equity director, blah, 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 a couple other things, and it was $182,000. Okay? That was handed to us a few months ago. Okay? And then there was also another one that came to us. I think it was in, I don't know, I guess it was April, or it was probably before that. There was the administrative ones that had all this other stuff, and it was $118,000. Those were the two first recommendations that we got. And I recall after the meeting, and maybe you can verify this for me, Steve, I came up to you and I said, Steve, I think what we should do is allocate $150,000 for the next 3 years, you know, over every year for the next 3 years. And I said, by George, that's actually exactly in the middle of these two things. So somewhere along the line, we went from this committee recommendation and this administrative recommendation to this recommendation and this recommendation. And I'm still not exactly sure, because Mary Beth just read to me some recommendations, which are not these and are not these, but are really kind of there. So where are we?
The difference comes down to whether or not this board determines whether or not they want a full-time equity director for $200,000. That's what the board has to determine.
You know, this is, honestly, Neil, respectfully, I just think that you're both mischaracterizing this initiative. The committee made 6 recommendations. She just read those 6 recommendations.
And we've discussed that both meet those ones.
Okay? And this proposal on the table right now meets those, with the exception of the outreach program. And that was supposed to be a function of social service outreach.
But we're going back to the same thing. Can you agree that both meet all of those?
Well, I just don't want it mischaracterized as if the administration's proposal is somehow a deviation from what the committee.
I don't think it's
generated.
I think from the start, I said, why are we talking about
Then
all
it comes down to whether or not there's a need for a
Everything
full-time
within
culturally responsive pedagogy
Plan has been
instructor.
addressed other than the full-time.
Right.
Correct. We can say that both proposals this evening address all 6 concerns. The main concern is, do we have a full-time equity director like most $75 million corporations have, or do we have a $30,000 consultant?
All right, well then here's the question. If we go with the full-time equity director and it costs us $175,000 to $200,000 with the salary and benefits,
Okay.
That's salary.
then
and benefits.
what, I want to make sure that we still have monies left for the culturally responsive training, the diversity training.
Yep.
Money for the kids. So, like, how much more on top of that would we have to put into the budget? See what I'm saying? I don't want,
Well, Mary Beth,
I'm just saying, are you following me?
But
If
they're
we
both
take
in
all
there.
the bulk of the money and we put it toward the director, but then we leave the director with no resources, how's the director gonna succeed?
Mary Beth, they're both.
Well,
Hold on,
it's
guys.
We're
They're all
talking,
in there.
we're talking
The diversity
about,
consultant, diversity consultant will
Chad.
deliver beyond diversity. I'm answering her questions.
I'm
Steve, if I
asking,
could.
actually, I was asking Dr. King.
But did you look at the proposal?
Yeah, it's right in front of my face.
Okay,
John.
so the diversity consultant, the beyond diversity training is in there. The CRP consultant will collaborate with
Yeah, but
district
you have
administrators.
$125,000 in. That's not an accurate figure.
It could
It
be.
says $125,000 salary. I think that's pretty accurate.
Plus benefits.
Well, I mean, you could hire someone for 95.
Okay, so
and it'd be
we're saying that our
125
budget was
benefit.
somewhere between 150 and 180. I'm saying,
And I'm saying, let's make it 195.
I agree. Let's
We
make it
just
195.
spent $3 million today that wasn't even discussed, and we're literally looking at $15,000. Let's be real.
yeah, I know, but the difference is, the difference is it's an annual
This is not a monetary
budget
debate.
expense.
This
We're
is
not
not a
talking about a
monetary
one-time
debate. We heard-
expenditure. This is gonna be a long-term plan.
But,
I
I mean,
hear
we're
you,
here for
except for
education.
this. This is for the budget which is coming up in 2 weeks. This is for that budget. Like, we are putting that money in there. That is what this is for. That number, whatever the number is, whether it's 135, 195, or 210, or whatever the number is, that is the number that we're proposing to put into this budget, so that we actually have this.
And furthermore, let me
Cover.
address the concern as to how will we have money for these things. We heard a few examples from teachers today, right? One was purchasing books from Brittany Vasco, right? There's money in the budget already, right? Hundreds of thousands of dollars for library and for purchase of books. All it is that you're purchasing different books. You're reaching out to them and you're connecting in ways. It's not that it's this exuberant additional expense. It's the purchase of a movie. It's taking the textbooks that are already purchased and saying, nobody cares how many ducks or how many cows or how many chickens are in the room. We care about something that's engaging to us, whether that be music, whether that be sports, whether that be anything. You have to engage the students. If we're not engaging the students, and I'm sorry, I don't think someone that you're paying $30,000, if you pay $30,000, you're gonna get $30,000. So, the way I view it is we can pay a part-time person, and let's just look at this logic. Let's say we go with the administration's recommendation. We pay the $30,000 consultant. The achievement gap doesn't go down next year. What do? I just honestly want to know what the board does. Have we thought out a 1 year, a 2 year, a 3 year out? Or have we just said, hey, well, this is cheaper, it kind of appeases some people.
I think
This
we
one,
have to.
you're committed, you're jumping in, you're not just putting your toe in the water, and if it doesn't work, then you adapt and you make changes. I have never preached that this is a golden ticket. I've never preached that this is the magic bullet and that this will completely obliterate our achievement gap. But it has been proven at some districts to work. It has been proven in other districts not to work as effectively. But there is a problem. There's a well-documented problem since the 60s, and if we're not going to do anything, we're being negligent. So we can either sit here and continue.
Nobody
to
is
sit on-
proposing doing nothing,
That's just nonsense
okay?
to propose
This
doing
board is really
nothing.
committed to doing something. It's
Yeah.
just that
I hope we have
everybody has
different-
different
That's
opinions on
right.
exactly what the final product should look at.
To use terms like that, just nothing, there's nothing more than
Use
fuel the...
expenditure instead of investigation.
I'm sorry, I have the floor, you don't,
Yes, you do.
okay? To use terminology like that just inflames this. This committee has spent a year and a quarter, came up with 6 solid recommendations, was told all along that the administration would have to be the final arbiter of that because this board was not going to work against that. A couple of weeks ago, you jump in with a $200,000 proposal that was never part of what the committee recommended. The committee recommended a reach-out program. I'm looking at the 6 right here that came out of August.
This is what was distributed to them.
Steve, we had a meeting that you chaired. We had 2, we got this.
I
one,
think
and
the
you-
confusion is
This was the summary of the
when the
meeting.
committee said reach
Equity
out to
director,
homes of
4-year salary,
underperforming students,
$125,000.
he took that as social worker.
Well, let's go one at a time here.
Yeah,
Let's
Well,
relax.
seriously.
Oh, listen, I think
I
it
agree.
comes down to.
Let's be calm.
What everybody said, and, you know, you're right, we all want to do something. It's, how we reach that right now is what we're trying to work through. And some of us believe that we listen to the administration, they're the educators, that's what we pay them the big dollars for. And we trust in them to bring us back something that we can at least start with and work with. And, you know, hats off to everybody on the committee that was there and went through the year-long thing, and we're at least here right now. And we can sit here all night and argue each side, and I think it comes down.
Let me see if I can make a suggestion. This has been debated, and you could continue to do this if you'd like and talk about what somebody remembers and what they don't remember. If you, Chad, have another proposal, which I think you do. Right. The way to get things done here is to vote. Now, what I would suggest to you is that you make a motion to amend whatever the solution proposed by the administration, and put your proposal on and see if the amendment passes. If it doesn't, now you're back to the original position. That's the way Robert's Rules works. It's not necessarily that you, certainly, I'm not trying to cut off debate, but I've heard a lot of different positions. I think it's time now to put a position on the table in the form of a motion, if it's gonna be an amendment, or you vote on this one.
If this one fails, then.
Yeah.
I agree.
I make a motion.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. You know, I'm more confused now than I've ever been in my whole life. I always vote from my heart in the facts, but Mary Beth brought up the 6 steps they were gonna follow. Steve had a few things too they were gonna follow. Then I get this new sheet saying the committees, who's on the committee now? Are they on the committee, or who's on this committee that made up this $125,000?
Well, here, let me answer. Here's the deal. Here's what I know from the committee. I know that they, met many times and they went through it, and then we were all given this booklet.
Yeah.
We were all given this book, and this was. I heard Mary Beth tell me these are the 6 recommendations, except for this book was what I got as the recommendations, and in here it had 2 recommendations.
Right.
It had this recommendation and this recommendation.
That's right.
And so I'm left with picking this or this, or something other.
Mary Beth, you have the binder in front of you.
I'm gonna-
Hold on, Steve. Can you read to me?
Mr. President, I'm going to make a motion, I'm going to follow the advice of counsel. We've debated this ad nauseum. I'm going to make a motion to accept the administration's recommendation as it regards to its item number 24, Achievement Gap Committee Framework for Equity, final recommendation.
That motion has already been made and seconded. Mary Beth, can you answer the
Has it been
question?
made and seconded?
There's an estimate of cost of committee recommendations. Can you tell me what that first line item is, an estimate of cost of committee recommendations? It's page 13 of 16 in the front.
I have it.
182,000.
No,
Can you read
first line.
Line number 1, if you could.
125,000 equity director full-time.
Okay, and That's the committee's recommendation is what that says, correct? These were the two that we were debating in that meeting, correct? And that is the committee's recommendation, is that accurate?
That's accurate.
Thank you. Page 16, cost of administrative recommendations. Right? We look at number one, there's $0 for equity director. Number two, $42,000 for a halftime social worker. $25,000 for culturally responsive, $1,000 for a substitute teacher, and $50,000 for instructional coaching and tutoring. So when people are saying this is Chad's plan, this is Chad's plan, this plan came directly from page 13 of 16 in the estimate of cost of committee recommendations. This is the committee's recommendation. Why did we spend all this taxpayer money on 750 pages that we gave to everybody if we're not going to admit that that's the committee's recommendation? I make a motion to amend the administration's recommendation to read what the achievement gap proposal is, putting in a full-time equity director with $125,000 salary, a diversity consultant for $10,000, a CRP consultant for $10,000, instructional coaching and tutoring for $50,000.
Can I make a question? You were
No,
just
there's
talking.
gotta be a second.
I'll second.
Okay,
Motion by Mr. Steubenport, second by Ms.
I got a
Byer.
question.
Go
On the
ahead.
amendment.
This is on this
What you're
one.
recommending is from the committee?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Question.
Hold on. Go ahead.
There's nothing in the recommendation for the $40,000 for substitute teachers. Are we gonna have to add $40,000 to this?
No, I'm recommending we hire an outside equity coordinator for $125,000. Not disrupt the classrooms where we have good teachers already present.
I think I see what Mary Beth is saying.
No, when we're
If you
there,
try
I
to
think this,
reread-
I think this.
I would like to finish what I was
Oh, I'm
saying.
sorry, John.
Mary, Chad, if you take a look at page 13 again and read number 2,
Yep.
it seems to say $40,000.
Yep.
But the motion you just made did not include that
Correct.
40,000.
And let me explain that. So, on page 13 of 16, and anyone please correct me if I'm wrong, this was saying if we hired a teacher from within, we would need to hire a substitute teacher, as it says, for 4-year assignment to fill in for that equity coordinator, correct?
Doesn't say within.
It says substitute teacher for teacher on assignment full year.
Meaning that teacher would then be
Meaning that we would
the,
hire
teacher
one of
would
our
be-
teachers to be the equity director. So I'm recommending, if it's important enough, we shouldn't put in put a substitute teacher into a classroom. We should leave our teachers in place and hire an outside and actually commit to a $125,000 consultant.
Well, that could be hard to attract someone for a position that might not be around for 5 years.
I can get you.
we don't
That's
know.
normal, that's normal to have that kind of
I get you
position.
20
Who's talking, Chad?
I think the board should do a 3-year commitment if we're actually
I
going to look
agree.
at data and see, hey, is this making a difference? I think we should at least do a 3-year commitment.
And that gets rid of the 40,000 then, I guess, is what she's saying.
So,
Okay, any other
Any other
questions?
questions or comments?
All right, so
Roll call, Mark.
we're
I had a
voting on
question.
amending.
this thing,
The amendment.
page this thing.
I didn't get
We're
it.
voting on the one
One
Chad.
that says achievement gap proposal.
Correct, the one that we went over 3 weeks ago.
I never got to speak.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Val.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm sorry.
I'm just gonna make a comment here. We pay our superintendent $140,000 a year, so we're gonna bring in an equity director for $125,000, which is $15,000 less than what he's making, and he's taking care of the whole school district. So I'm looking at the difference there. I mean.
I'm not here for the money.
Well, Val, I
I'm
I agree, and I believe,
medication.
I
I completely agree, and I think that's a great point, and that's why with a full-time equity director, you're able to encompass the whole school district. You're not just doing 2 schools. So, when we look at the problem, is fixing the achievement gap worth $125,000, yes or no? I mean, honestly, we just spent the money we just
Worth
spent.
$1 million, Chad.
Okay, so I hope that we
So
can
let's
approve 200,000.
put it forward.
I appreciate it.
Ready? Roll call?
It is.
Okay, what are we voting on?
Chad.
This piece of paper.
The Achievement Gap Committee's proposal.
Correct.
This is-
$195,000.
Yes.
Mrs. Warning,
No.
Mr. Williams,
No.
Mrs. Byrne,
Aye.
Mrs. Cerrucci,
No.
Mr. Lapsevich.
My vote's gonna be because the committee works so hard over a year, they know more than I do. They got their heads together and everything, and I have to respect that, so I say yeah.
Mr. Nolan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell?
No.
Mr. Ritter?
No.
Mr. Stubenborg?
Aye.
Motion fails.
So I move that item 24, as proposed by the administration, be approved.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Donnell, second by Mrs. Warning. Questions, comments?
Is there an explanation as to why the lion's share goes towards tutoring?
I thought I reviewed that a few minutes ago with you.
I just got this a few hours ago, so I mean, is there data that proves that the tutoring will decrease the achievement gap?
There is a number of different studies out there that additional time, prescribed time, May 2010, Donovan 2009.
Like the accelerated target accelerated, right?
No, this is just additional time for tutoring.
Okay, do we have, I mean, what is the plan to make students attend then if we can't make them?
We're simply offering tutoring for the students. We cannot force a student. We can't force.
Again, my biggest
So if we
concern.
spend 75,000 and no one attends,
So do we want to remove the tutoring and
Well,
put
the
that money
cost of
into
the
something
tutoring
else?
is, we have to provide transportation for our students. We have to provide a snack, something to drink. We have to provide the materials in place 4 days a week. The plan, if you read the bullets, partners with RAMP over the weekend
what
to
is,
provide tutoring.
and this is for 2 schools, correct?
This would be for 2 schools, CSE and Evergreen.
And how are those 2 schools selected?
Primarily based on achievement and growth.
Okay, but they're not the 2 with the biggest achievement gap.
I would have to look at the data recently.
Okay, so I don't believe that they are. The other question I have, so we're gonna do it at 2 schools. If a kid from Ramsey wants tutoring, how do we coordinate that? Do we get a 3rd bus?
This is strictly a program for those 2 schools that we are piloting.
If you go to another school, you can't get that tutoring.
We will have tutoring through the Ready to Learn block grant that we've had offered for the last
Because
4 years.
I believe board members that were present during Nina's stay here and during the Heinz grant, that was one of the big things was why are we doing training or tutoring for some but not for all?
I totally agree.
We
If
currently,
this district would like to invest, if the board decides to
We
invest
just voted
full-time
it down, so
tutoring
I don't think-
in all the buildings, I got no issue with it.
All right, can I ask a question? I always hate doing this because, I don't know, but here's the deal. This proposal here, this one that we just voted down, came about from this proposal, which we got, months ago, which came about from the study session. We talked about at the study session, right? We talked about this one at the study session.
We talked about the initial.
It was on a board resolution from Mr. Stubenborg at a study session.
Yes.
So we talked about this one at a study session, which came about from this one from months ago. I received this one afternoon today. Jesus. Come on, man, at the minimum, we had 3 weeks to prepare something because we had a study session. We voted that's down the last meeting before that, and we said that we needed something to do differently. Okay, we did get something different, but we got it this afternoon, and the public got it at 7 o'clock whenever they arrived. That's the type of stuff that we need to focus on not doing.
95% of everything that's in there was on the previous meeting 3 weeks
Can
ago.
I make a
Less than 7 hours ago that we got. the
Can I make a
information.
comment? This was understood from the very beginning, okay? And that is that we're going to follow cohorts. If we don't see the progress, nothing is carved in stone. We can go back and make amendments, change the funding streams, et cetera. So I appreciate what you're saying, but unless the chair thinks I'm out of order, I'm just going to call the question and vote this.
I make a motion to table due to lack of transparency and lack of time to discuss and look over the proposal.
I think my motion to call.
Not yet.
You need a second.
Second.
Now it
Thank
does.
you.
Now the second, now the
Now
table
the
goes.
table.
Right. No discussion. Vote on the table.
Barney, you with us?
Yes, I am. Mr.
Okay,
Williams.
this is to table.
Mr. Williams.
No.
Mrs. Byrne.
No.
Mrs. Cerucci.
No.
Mr. Lapsevich.
Tabling this.
Table one. Oh, no.
Mr. Nola.
You seconded it, Neil.
Oh, you can still vote.
That doesn't mean I was gonna vote for it.
That's right, you don't have to.
No.
Mr. O'Donnell.
No.
Mr. Ritter.
No.
Mr. Stubenborg.
Yes.
Mrs. Warning.
No.
Motion failed.
Now, I make a motion to,
We can
It's
just.
already on the table.
we can
it's
just
on the
call-
table, so can I call the question, please?
Was there a second to that?
Yeah, there was.
The president can just call it without a motion, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Why don't we just do that, sir?
Bonnie, roll call.
Roll call. Mrs. Byrne.
This is the vote for this one.
No.
Call the question.
No?
No.
We're not voting to call the question.
This is
We're
not
voting
the
on it.
vote.
No, we're voting on
This
that
is voting
proposal.
on this,
Right.
this thing.
No, you should, though.
On this.
You don't
We're
have to
voting,
have a motion
but
to
this
call the
is,
question.
okay. So this vote is for our final recommendation.
administration's proposal.
Administration's
Right.
recommendation.
9 of 9, page 9 of 9.
Okay, which I don't agree with, so I'm going to vote no.
Mrs. Cerucci.
Yes.
Mr. Lapsevich.
I don't change my mind, no.
Mr. Nola.
No.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Ritter.
No?
Mr. Stubenborg.
No.
Mrs. Warning.
Yes.
Mrs. Warning.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Motion
Motion
fails.
fails. We're back to the drawing
Yeah,
board.
back, we're starting all
Well,
over.
you're not back to the drawing board, you have it.
Okay.
It just needs tweaked. It's hard to make everybody happy.
Any resolutions presented by board members besides yours, Ted?
Do we have the other one?
What's the other one?
The one where we don't spend millions of dollars without it being proposed to the board 4 days
Oh, I
prior?
remember that one.
What's that?
Still working on
Still
it.
working on it. Okay, well, then I have another proposal. I'm just gonna
Yes,
throw it
sir.
out there. I've been surprised enough this meeting. I make a proposal that we create and open a position for just an equity director and start looking for a position, because in order to do so, we need to look now to have it in place for the beginning of the next school year. So I make a motion in the area of $95,000 to $125,000, whatever HR believes to be accurate for certifications. And that's my motion.
Second.
So you're putting
Motion.
that, you're making that motion to put it on the agenda.
No, that's my board resolution to vote on it currently.
We didn't even have time to think.
Is that something?
Questions, comments? Chad,
Yes,
Should
we have time to think about that?
Motion.
Yes, for the next couple of weeks.
motion by Mr. Stubenborg, a second by Barnes.
All right, so Scotty, let me ask a
Okay.
question.
Questions, comments on Chad's motion?
Sure, Chad, if I may ask a question. If we don't go with this resolution, does that mean we won't have time to find an equity director by the start of the school year in the fall of
We
2017?
would need to talk.
I can't answer that
We
with
have
a
a
professional
June
opinion.
6th meeting and a June
excuse me, 23rd meeting.
Excuse me, Chad, you were speaking?
I can't answer that professionally. I think obviously more time gives you more options, which always helps in a hiring process. But I can't sit here and say if we do it 2 weeks later, we would not be able to find someone.
Thank you very
More
much.
time would help.
Mr. Short, you were saying something?
No, I was just giving the dates of the next meeting. June 6th and June 23rd.
Very good, thank you.
We can call an emergency meeting.
We could.
I mean,
Are
personally.
we still talking?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Noel.
Oh, I believe that, I don't like when we bring up resolutions and vote for them.
Okay.
There's only,
said it.
there, I agree, except for, it actually was on here from the study session. So I can maybe overlook it.
And on here from months ago.
Semantics. And it was on here from months ago, so, so I
And-
can overlook that this time.
And it's the right thing to do, so.
Any other questions or comments? Bonnie, could we have a roll call?
Mrs. Cerucci.
Does everybody know what we're voting on?
No.
We're voting on basically this stuff.
Just the top
This
one.
top thing. Just
What was the price range?
95,000 to 125,000.
Does that include benefits or not?
That would be the salary.
Okay, so with benefits, Trish, what do you estimate that at?
Every other position that we voted on this evening shows the salary. I think that the salary is sufficient of
My
95 to
understanding
120.
though was the motion was that I could determine based on experience and
Certification.
certifications.
Yes,
So that is the criteria. We do not put a limit on it because we do not hire based on that. We hire based on the certification
Right.
and their qualifications. Once that person is done, we'll make a recommendation.
That's-
All right, so let me
that's
ask
fine,
the
fair,
follow-up
full-time.
question.
Okay,
Let's
everybody
say
good with
that, let's say that Trish succeeds in performing this search and finds one or two or three or four nice candidates, and then this board decides not to go with the program. Have we wasted Trish's time and our money in performing the search?
To put it into this, they waste away.
We just go
Thank you.
to delivering our second child.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, it might be
I
something.
have 3, so that's okay. We're
Are we
good.
taking the amount out?
Yeah.
All right. And so what should the time frame be to finish the search for Mrs. Crump?
As fast as you can.
Is that acceptable?
I think get it posted, see what we perceive, if the board's happy with.
There's nothing wrong with looking.
Correct.
Very good. All right, so I think we're done with the discussion, right?
Okay, everybody understands what we're voting on?
Yes.
To instruct Trish to perform a search.
Yeah, I understand.
Bonnie, roll call, please.
Mrs. Cerucci.
No,
Mr. Lapsevich.
Aye.
Mr. Nola.
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
No.
Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mr. Stubenbord.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning.
aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mrs. Byrne.
Aye.
Motion.
7-2.
Any other resolutions by board members? Seeing none. Comments from residents on non-agenda items. Do we have anybody wish to speak? Please come up to the podium.
You come back.
Boy, you have a tan, where you been?
Working in his yard.
Down south.
Easy. Matt Stakunis, 123 Kelvington Drive.
Thank you, Matt.
On Saturday, May 20th, two teams from Gateway High School competed against 188 teams from all over the United States, San Juan, Puerto Rico, Grand Cayman Islands, St. Thomas, and the U.S. Virgin Islands, and teams came as far from Hawaii and also New Zealand for the Sea Perch Championship held at Georgia Tech's Aquatic Center in Atlanta, Georgia. Team McNaughton, consisting of Nathan Ridge, Azka Peabody, and Ryan Young, finished first in the obstacle course, second in underwater challenge, seventh in the engineering notebook, and second overall in the open class. Team PhD times 2, consisting of Andrew DePalma, Luke DePalma, Garrett Hamilton, and Asher Pascalinqua, finished ninth overall in the high school stock class, which consisted of almost 100 teams. Asher, Andrew, Aska, Garrett, Luke, Nathan, Ryan, Sean McMahon, Henry Perriello, and myself would like to thank the school board and administration for supporting the Sea Perch program and providing the students the opportunity to attend the national Sea Perch competition. We'd also like to thank the parents that made the trip to Atlanta to cheer on both teams. The students have spent countless hours after school and on Saturdays preparing for the national competition. They wanted to make Gateway proud, and I believe they accomplished that goal. Luke DePalma said it best in his interview with the Times Express about Team McNaughton: if they win, we win, we're all Gateway. Thank you, Bob Brown, wherever he is, for always finding the time for us to practice in the pool no matter what. And then also Mr. Perriello for working also with the teams on countless hours, and the other Gateway staff for helping along the way. The Sea Perch program provides students the opportunity to learn about robotics, science, technology, and engineering, while they build an underwater ROV remotely operated vehicle. Students learn engineering concepts, problem-solving skills, teamwork, technical applications, and more information is on the Seaperch website at www.seaperch.org. The pool was set at 12 feet deep, which is a little different than what we had been practicing, so it was a little bit different. But congratulations to Team McNaughton Team PhD for such a successful year this year. So, thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Any other comments?
And I guarantee you I'll be quick.
Ken Houston again?
Yeah, that'd be me. I usually don't do this. 108 Edgemead Drive, Monroeville, PA. Real quick, I want to give a special shout out to the Evergreen School. Let me say this. A lot of times we don't really appreciate all that teachers and administrators do with our children. And my son Tristan is 9 years old. Yes, I have a 9-year-old son. My oldest is 30. Don't ask me. But one of the things that I absolutely love about Evergreen, in that I commend Mr. Mateo, it is such a loving school. There are awesome people there. My son is extremely happy in his school, and I'm not saying that lightly. He goes out his way to make sure he doesn't disappoint his teachers or Mr. Mateo. He is a phenomenal principal, folks. I don't know if you give out awards. I don't know if you give out free movie and a popcorn, but he deserves it. And that whole staff at that school deserves it. And I ain't saying this because you're here, April, but they do. They're wonderful, wonderful people. Those teachers are loving. And I was against the armed police officers in the schools. And believe it or not, I wasn't in a suit, and I came there and I had a ball cap on, and I didn't look, professional. And the officer, surprisingly enough, was extremely courteous to me. And that struck me. He greeted me, how you doing? I went in the office. It's good to know your kids are safe and they're in a loving environment, especially your 9-year-old child. So a special shout out to Evergreen Elementary. I also want to say that you guys have one of the greatest crews working at the cafeteria at the high school that God has ever put on earth. My 2 daughters graduated from Gateway, and I always wondered why they didn't want to pack a lunch. They never wanted to take a lunch to school. And I'm like, God, that food must be, or they're eating in the vending machine, they must be doing something. When I had an opportunity to meet those cafeteria ladies, and I believe there's a gentleman there, I was thinking, how can I sneak in there and get me a lunch? It's the little people and the little things that we don't appreciate. So I hope that you guys, all you that are in administration, take the time and let those ladies know how much they're appreciated. They prepare awesome food in that building. So I just want to say that because we don't say it enough, and that's a shame. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ken. Anybody else like to address us on non-agenda? Seeing, let's move forward. Short.
Just wish to thank the board for really stepping up and coming to a conclusion with the Achievement Gap Committee. We've been at this for over 14 months, 15 months. Yeah. And, now we have at least somewhat of a carved vision that we need to move forward to. And I think all of us would agree that it's in the best interest of students. and the ability to narrow, close, eliminate the achievement gap. And, there's no doubt there's been some wonderful things taking place within this district, as we highlighted last week with Gateway High School moving from what was 41st to 19th in the Pittsburgh Business Times. That's hard work, and that's understanding a system in place. And there's no question that we're going to have continued success in all levels, in all grades. So with that, we have received the direction from this board, and we can assure this board and the community that we're going to move forward with implementing a framework that will allow our students to be successful. Also, if you notice behind me, Mr. Lapsevich in front here, last week was our prom at Gateway High School. Not at the high school, however, it was at Edgewood Country Club. And I really wanted to take the opportunity to showcase the number of props and different items that accompanied the theme of Alice in Wonderland. And the hours of work involved with our kids under the direction of Mr. Mike Carson, the art teacher, and Mrs. Tina Hirschberger, the prom advisor. Pictures, which we will be posting on the website, are worth just looking at the designs and just everything associated with making that night spectacular for our kids. And it truly was. So my hat is off to everyone, Mr. Carson and Mrs. Hirschberger. I asked for them to be here tonight to be acknowledged. Having worked with them for over 25 years at the high school, they declined. I know that's them. They're in it for the kids and the hours that they put in to testimony, but I did want to at least acknowledge them because it's very important. So with that, thank you.
Dr. Takey? Thank you, sir. Mr. Rossi?
Just a reminder, curriculum that is May 25th.
What time?
6:30, I believe.
Yes.
Shot?
Just one quick item, just as a reminder, the final public hearing on the 17-18 fiscal year budget will be on Tuesday, June 6th at 6 p.m. in the high school LGI. Thank you.
Ms. Crump?
So was it 6 or 7?
6.
Thank you.
Board meeting follows.
With the approval of the Kelly Educational System, each of our subs will be notified of the transition, and in order to facilitate an easy transition for them, we have arranged for Kelly Educational Services to be on campus June 7th and June 8th. We will send out the information and have it published, but that way it'll be an ease of use for all of our substitutes to be able to do the transition on campus and not have to go off-site.
Thank you. Mr. Geis?
If anybody's interested, the Pens are winning 1-0.
Hey!
The second period.
Might as well say keep talking.
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. Ritter?
Wait a minute, yes. Whitfield Track Championships occurred last week at Baldwin High School, and our student athletes came home uncharacteristically quiet, tired, but with a bunch of medals and personal records, so way to go, kids. Now, this week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, they're going out to Shippensburg to compete, so run like the wind, kids, you can do it. Number two, I'd like to say also some kudos to the lunch folks at the Gateway Cafeteria Squad. Mrs. Cerrucci and I went. I had some wonderful spaghetti. I kept some of it on this tie, and I'm never going to wash it for later on, but it was
There
wonderful.
was a photo op from
The
what I
food
heard.
was just wonderful, and the staff was just great. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. And for those who are scientific, this expires in 19, that's celery seeds. Oregano expires a couple years from now. These never expire. I brought some sugar pieces that never expire. Water is 6,000 years old. Some kosher salt here, 6,000 years old. But the point of all this is, we have experts in the cafeteria that know how to handle foods, all right? And we should let them do their job. So,
That's
When-
why.
When do the cookies expire?
No, I might have made some of the cookies with some of this salt and
Like,
some
see
other
the
ingredients.
ingredients of those cookies.
The point is, you know,
Let's let the experts do what the experts do.
John,
Thank
what
you, Mr.
happens to
Ritter.
the raisins when they get old? Don't they get hard?
No,
Open them,
What happens to the cheese?
But if they're not open, you're good.
that's right. Especially if they're sealed in plastic.
Ms. Byrne?
Very quickly, just wanted to say thank you to Ms. Payne for Project ACES. It was wonderful. I love going every year. Excited to watch it next year as well. That's all.
Thank you. Mr. O'Donnell?
Nothing at this time, thanks.
Thank you. Rucci?
Just one thing, Mr. Houston, thank you so much for all those kind words that you said about Evergreen. But I wanted to add, do you know that that's how Ramsey parents feel? And that's how UP parents feel? And that's how CSE parents feel? Well, maybe not all of them, because there's somebody there saying no, but that's how I felt for my children at Ramsey, that the staff that they had was phenomenal, the experience I had there was phenomenal, and I have friends that say the same thing about UP and CSE, and my point of saying that is to emphasize that Gateway School District is an awesome place to be, and we care about our kids, and our teachers care about our kids, and this is a great district to be in, and it will continue to be a great district for all of our students. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Lapsovich?
Thank you, Mr. Scott. John?
Yes.
The cookies you made tonight, the only reason I didn't eat any because I heard there might be something to help me remove my bowels. So I didn't want to take a chance.
what?
But be on a serious side of this evening is I have to give credit to Dr. King with all her work with her committee. I took all that into consideration, and I appreciate all your help, work. That's all.
Mr. Knoll, let's hurry up before he does something.
It's hard to follow this all. All right, so we do have new artwork this week. It's very, very nice. I like a lot of these things. I don't even understand how it's done, but
It's photography.
I know, but I like it, so
That's okay.
that's all that matters. And I do want to say one thing, just in general. I think it's a privilege and a pleasure to serve, and to serve with all these people that are serving,
Especially me?
Yep, all the board members, especially, serving is very important, and I know that there seems to be contention on certain things, and amongst us ourselves and with different people in the community, but that's only because all of the 9 people that are up here are serving, and they're doing it because they love this place, actually.
And that's healthy. Right.
And that's what everybody should always remember. Because I don't think anybody has any wishes other than what they think is best, no matter how things are voted or said or whatever. And I also want to commend not just those, I want to commend all the administrators and all the teachers and everyone. This Gateway is a phenomenal school district. Second to none, no matter what.
Thank you, Mr. Knoll. Mr. Supert?
All right. Congratulations to C. Perk. I don't know if Sister Prince is still back there or not. I heard little birdie told me that the news is interested in there. They might be reaching out to them and doing a story on their amazing performance. So hopefully those students and the teachers can get a little bit more recognition there. On the 26th, that is Friday, at 9 a.m. it's Junior Achievement Day over at Evergreen. Yes, at Evergreen. They're still in need of a few people if anyone's interested. Ken, I don't know if you're going to be there or not, but if you want to join me, let me know. We have a few people from my place of employment, so if anyone's never been there or is unfamiliar with Junior Achievement, they bring business professionals in from the community to actually teach the students. So it's nice to get a no offense to any of the teachers here, but they get a break from the typical day. They have individuals from the community come in and teach business and edible, digestible lessons. The kids have a great time with it. The teachers are there to help us, and they do a great job as well. So if anyone's interested, I know some of the other schools are doing it as well later in the year, so if anyone's interested whatsoever that's watching, I don't know who they should call Bill Short, he loves phone calls, so call Bill and just tell him you're calling for junior achievement. And they'll hook you up with the right guy. I'm just gonna touch on it briefly. I know I do this every single meeting, and hopefully next meeting when we pass something that says you can't put stuff on the agenda and spend millions of dollars without some notice, that hopefully we'll be able to do that. So just let's try to keep people abreast. I heard the comment that was sneaky over there. Didn't we do that? No, that was actually done months and months ago, recommending $125,000. So if there are $130,000, $538,000, $350,000 things that only a few board members even know what the heck we're voting for, just inform us. Send us an email. We all get email. We all open email. I feel like this should be a one and done. Okay, oops, we did it one time. But to do it every single meeting, that's not fair to anyone up here, and stuff, not fair to anyone there or watching on TV. So let's try to be transparent. Let's try to get the information out there. All I can do is hope and pray at this point. To board members that switched their votes there, thank you. To the committee, thank you. To everyone who came and spoke for the first hour of the meeting, thank you. I'm not even going to say it because I know administration will take it and run with it and do what's right. So thank you to everyone involved with that. I hope we can all work together and make progress. And if we see down the line, hey, parts of it work, parts of it don't work, and we adjust, we overcome, and we move forward. So thank you, everyone, and that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart.
Oh, one more thing. Congratulations. I see Burlex in the audience today. Rick McIntyre and Brian Gottman. Congratulations. If any of us can be of any help, I know these guys are all great. Feel free to reach out to us, email, call, text. I look forward to you guys continuing on up here. So, thank you.
Did you say Rick's name?
I did.
Okay, I didn't know. Just making sure you got covered.
Scotty, two more things. I think Bill put this on our little note here. There are two announcements that Bill would probably like to make. That is May 24th, that's tomorrow we got a Forbes Road graduation at Plum Senior High School at 7 o'clock. That's Forbes Road graduation, Plum Senior High School, 7 o'clock. And then the next day, that's Thursday, Gateway Middle School Honors Night at the Gateway Middle School Honors Auditorium, that's at 7 o'clock.
And our curriculum meeting at 6:30.
Yes, and if I could just add, it's kind of a unique situation that we've been notified by Forbes that both the valedictorian and salutatorian are both Gateway graduates from Forbes. So they will be honored tomorrow night at Plum High School, giving a speech and recognized. So it's very rare that you have both from one high school. So tremendous accomplishment.
All right, so Mary Beth, did you say on May 25th, 6:30 p.m. in the boardroom that there would be a curriculum meeting?
And that's following.
And the public's invited, right?
It's in the Algiant over here.
No, it's
Right here.
It's in the boardroom. Okay. Thanks,
Yeah,
Mary
we'll
Beth.
have it set up.
Anything else? Anybody good? Valerie?
Okay, well, I'll try to do this real quick. Mrs. Riccardi, thank you. It's amazing those little kids at the preschool graduation that we attended last week, they grow up to be us. It happens. It was a great program. The parents were all excited seeing their little ones. I remember those. Okay, May 29th, no one said anything, but there's no school. May 29th, Memorial Day. Don't anybody come. John, you mentioned Gateway Middle School Honors Night on the 25th. And Gateway Middle School Spring Choir Concert is on June 1st. Mrs. Payne, Mr. Finkel, thank you for another excellent Project ACES. Kids really get out there and enjoy that. Teachers are really into it too. Evergreen is having their band concert on May 31st, Wednesday night. UP is having PNC night at PNC Park, June 8th. And a special thank you to Officer Kandrak. He received a grant that he is purchasing 100 bike helmets, and he's distributing them to Gateway School District students. He will be fitting all of the students himself, and I'm glad to see Officer Kandrak back at Gateway. And to our canine officer, he did a presentation at University Park. The students and staff were amazed at what the dog can do. And again, thank you to the Monroeville Police for working with our school district again. As Mr. Ritter touched on it at the WIPIALs that were held last week, several of our students, which I want to commend, Kristen Gregerson, she qualified in the shot put, the discus, and the jab. She's the first girl or boy athlete since Jody Smith back in the 70s to qualify in all 3 throwing events. She was second in the discus, fourth in the jab, and fifth in the shot put. Marcy Crawford qualified in the 100-meter hurdles. She's only a freshman, and now she holds the school record. Sophomore Kiana Blakely White, she qualified the 200-meter dash. She went to the WIPIALs in 6th seed, and she finished 5th. Senior Zion Burrow Hall qualified in the 110-meter high hurdles, and he placed 4th in the WIPIALs.
By thousandths of a second.
Thousandths of a second, yes. Damian Reed qualified 300 meters intermediate hurdles, taking second place medal. 400 relay team, 400-meter relay team, consisting of Bobby Stakowitz, Nana Adushba.
Nobody knows how to pronounce his last name.
Okay, Damian Reed and Isaiah Cameron, they placed 5th and qualified for the States. Karina Kurgowski qualified in the pole vault. Courtney Jackson in triple jump. And Travis Thompson. Good luck to all you guys. Shippingburg is a great place. We've been down several times with my children, and it's an eye-opener to see the athletes down there. You have to be a very good athlete to get down there. So congratulations and good luck.
Oh, could I add to that? PCN TV always broadcasts the high school PIAA, so you can get it a couple times. It'll be Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and then they rebroadcast it again the week after and the week after.
Yes. Are you going?
No.
Okay. Okay, another one. Nishan. Huh?
Did you want a ride share?
Oh, I'm not going. Nishant Patel, he was named the Western Pennsylvania Positive High School winner for boys tennis. He is college bound for Michigan, where he will be studying an engineer. He will be receiving this award June 13th at the Heinz History Center. He is a role model in school and embodies the positive athlete. So congratulations to him. To our baseball team, they made it to the playoffs, but first round, Scotty, I believe they lost.
the moon, I think.
Yes. With that, we have some couple more things. Our alumni. I want to shout out to Melanie Morgan. She will be inducted into Gateway's the WIPIAL Hall of Fame. On May 26th. She is the swimmer and has held 7 WIPIAL individual titles, 6 PIAA championships, and 5-time SEC championship at the University of Florida. 2 recent graduates, Jamie Smith. She has just been recently named as Director of Women's Basketball Operations at Niagara University. She was an excellent basketball player, graduated in 2007. And Justin King has just been hired at Penn State as the Assistant Recruiting Coordinator. Can't forget Gateway Middle School. They had their Plum Invitational. Derek Davis was named the MVP. Boys 4x100 relay, they set a new record, and the girls 4x800 relay, they took first place. Congratulations to Steve Perch, and sympathies to the Pete Anna Marino family, the Reach Giles family, and Dave Blanchek's family. His father-in-law recently passed away. And with that, go Pens.
It's now 1-1 during your speech.
Blame it on me. Go ahead.
Just giving you an update.
Okay.
Anybody else want to say anything? Thank everybody for coming tonight. Thanks for voicing your concerns and your opinions. Thanks to my colleagues. Like Neil said, we might bang our heads a little bit, but we all get along. Thanks to the administration for all your work you've done. And also hats off to Reach Giles family, and especially Coach Ann Marino, who coached me, myself, and a bunch of other guys who will be dearly missed. And my thoughts and prayers are with Coach's family. And with that, I'd like a motion to
Motion to adjourn?
Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
I'm sorry. We got to get it.